Douluo, I'm really not a rice god. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26 Iron-039, M back. ZHU Zuking looked around. She was surrounded by them, and whether she was going forward or retreating, both roads were blocked by them. There is no escape point. Even if she can fly, she can't escape. Even if she has wings. You really going to die here? But she hasn't seen that card yet. She hasn't asked him in person why he abandoned her and why he left her alone in that hell. Second, Miss, goodbye. As he spoke, the man in black smiled ferociously and took out his martial spirit, then took a bow and shot an arrow at ZHU Zuking. Day. Mubei, I hate you. At this moment, ZHU Zuking looked at the blade getting closer and closer to her, closing her eyes in despair, while a crystal teardrop streaked across her haggard cheek. She hates him. If he hadn't escaped, how could he be like this? At the same time, Lingtian, who had just arrived in midair, happened to see this scene. He didn't want to take action, but he was touched when he saw the girl's desperate look. Finally, he sighed helplessly, then took out the half-face mask he had used in the spirit fighting arena, and put it on his face. His identity could not be revealed easily. Then with a thought in his mind, Bingji Shan threw out a sword-light bite. The arrow condensed with soul power was cut off by Lingtian, who, the first soul skill, Eagle Eye, you can see every move within 30 meters around you. As the khaki soul ring lit up, the leader of the man in black's eyes became sharp, looking around, trying to find the location of the person who made the move. On the east side, catch up. Following his order, the other men in black heard the sound and moved. However, the leading man in black still stood there, observing Lingtian's movements. At the same time, his soul power at the soul sect level was fully activated, and he set up his bow and arrow, ready to deliver a fatal blow at any time. Where are the people? Lingtian suddenly disappeared from his sight point. Just when he was wondering, he suddenly felt a chill. The first one. At this moment, Lingtian was standing behind him, and the Bingji frost sword made a plop sound and pierced his heart without any hindrance. Commander, make noise in the east and attack in the west. The other men in black reacted immediately and turned around to kill Lingtian. At the same time. Hearing the scream, ZHU Zuking opened his eyes in confusion. Just in time to see a cold-looking young man in white clothes who exuded an arrogant aura beheaded the leader with one sword. ZHU Zuking, who was originally desperate, once again saw a glimmer of hope. But when she thought about the fact that there were more than 20 soul masters here, she couldn't help but wonder if this young man really had the ability to save her. But what happened next completely overturned ZHU Zuking's understanding of the boy. Pukai. But Lingtian didn't give them a chance to counterattack and use the third soul skill again. Ice G Sword Flash. Every time it appeared in the crowd, the Ice G Frost Sword would take away an enemy. Blue light continued to flash, and the number of fallen enemies continued to increase. Thump, thump, run away. His speed is too fast. Retreat quickly. As corpses fell one after another, the men in black were completely frightened and fled in panic, no longer having the courage to fight Lingtian before. But the question is, can they escape? The effective distance of the third soul skill is 50 meters. Will Lingtian give these people a chance to run 50 meters? He knows very well the principle of cutting off the grass and roots. The last one, Lingtian slashed out a sword wave and cut off the last man in black at the waist. At this time, ZHU Zuking had a big mouth, and his originally cold expression was now full of shock and astonishment. He is so strong. One person actually defeated all the pursuers. Just when ZHU Zuking was stunned, Lingtian had already walked up to her and said in a cold voice, I have taken care of all the people chasing you. You should be out of danger for the time being. ZHU Zuking's face turned red when he came back to his senses. He looked at Lingtian secretly and whispered, thank you. Dressed in white, he is a young man with a cold personality and a half mask with a fox Face point. This was ZHU Zuking's first impression of Lingtian point. But why does he wear a mask? Looking at the fair face exposed on the lower half of his face, he shouldn't be too ugly under the mask. While ZHU Zuking was thinking wildly, Lingtian had already turned around and was about to leave. Please. Wait. Seeing this scene, ZHU Zuking quickly stood up and called him to stop. Wait a minute. What's your name? Then he thought of something again. ZHU Zuking blushed slightly and quickly explained. Don't get me wrong. You saved me. I will definitely repay you in the future. Lingtian just waved his hand. It takes a little effort. Hey, wait a minute. You haven't. Before ZHU Zuking could finish speaking, Lingtian had already left with his sword point. He didn't want to get too involved with this dangerous girl, so his help this time was just an act of following his heart. After seeing her predicament point 2 days later, Kibeo glazed sect point. After Chenzin was defeated by the Snow Emperor and woke up, he frantically searched for Lingtian's whereabouts in the far north point. However, Lingtian was in the core circle of the far north at that time, so how could Chenzin be found? So no clues were found. In the end, Chenzin had no choice but to return to the Seven Treasures glazed sect point. Because of his inner self-blame and guilt for Lingtian, he placed all the blame on himself point until I received Lingtian's letter 3 days ago. Chenzin, who had been closing himself off for a week, finally let go of the self-blame in his heart, but since that day he would appear in front of the sect every day, waiting for Lingtian's figure. Today is no exception. Chenzin was dressed in white, quietly waiting for his apprentice. At the same time at this moment, Lingtian stepped on the Ice G Frost sword and quickly approached the gate of Kibeo glazed sect. Soon, the outline of a gorgeous 7-story pagoda gradually appeared in Lingtian's field of vision. As time goes by, the outline of the pagoda becomes clearer and clearer. Chenzin had been looking into the distance, and with the eyesight of a titled Douluo, he immediately saw Lingtian. Then he stopping, and crossed the horizon with his feet on the 7 kills sword. Teacher. Looking at the familiar Chenzin appearing in front of him, Lingtian suddenly understood something. His eyes turned slightly red, and a touch of emotion flashed in his eyes. I'm back. The teacher has been waiting for him to return to the sect at the mountain gate. Otherwise, no matter how fast he is, and how good his eyesight is, he still won't be able to get there so quickly. Chenzin frowned and asked in a deep voice. Zai-Ocean, what about your hair? Lingtian glanced at the hair on his shoulder and said with a hint of helplessness in his eyes, something happened. Let's wait until the sect comes to tell us more about it. Okay, return to the sect with my master. Chen Zin nodded calmly on the surface, but his right hand trembled slightly as he patted Lingtian's shoulder. Just come back. Just come back. It wasn't until this moment that Sword Douluo finally let go of his hanging heart, when he saw the intact Lingtian. Chapter 27. Zai-Ocean, have you dyed your hair? Okay, return to the sect with my master. Chen Zin nodded calmly on the surface, but his right hand trembled slightly as he patted Lingtian's shoulder. Just come back. Just come back. It wasn't until this moment that Sword Douluo finally let go of his hanging heart, when he saw the intact Lingtian. A moment later, the main hall of Kibeo glazed sect. Lingtian raised his hands to Chenzin, Durong, and Ning Fengxi and said softly, Teacher, Uncle Ning, and Grandpa Gu, I have made you worried during this period. When Zai-Ocean comes back, I can finally feel relieved. If something really happened to Lingtian, Ning Fengxi didn't know how to explain it to Zuking. Zai-Ocean, Uncle Giant said before. Wait a minute. Zai-Ocean, what's going on with your hair? Just when Ning Fengxi was about to ask what happened during the time when Lingtian was missing, when he lowered his head, his attention was attracted by Lingtian's long sky blue hair. This is also the question Chengxin wants to ask. He remembered that it was black half a month ago, so why did it suddenly change color? Did he dye his hair on the way back to his clan? However, one thing is that compared to the original black hair, the blue color is indeed more in line with Lingtian's aloof and cold temperament. Something unexpected happened in the far north. Lingtian turned his head and glanced at the long blue hair hanging on his shoulders. Looking at Chenzin's worried eyes, he explained softly, at that time, my eyes just went dark, and I didn't know anything. When I woke up again, I found myself in a cave, and neither the teacher nor the woman could be found. Later, after I recovered in the cave for a while, I left the cave to see if I could find the teacher or leave the far north point. I don't know if it was because of my previous experience, but I finally reached the level of soul master in the cave, and while looking for direction, I hunted an ice crystal scorpion that was about 2000 years old. Just when I finished absorbing the soul ring and was about to continue on my way, I accidentally found a piece of soul bone in the torso. After absorbing it, I found that my head became what it is now. Lingtian skipped the matter between the Snow Emperor and the Ice God point. Although the Kibao glazed sect is very kind to him, the relationship between this matter is too complicated and no one can know about it yet, so he made up such a half-truth and half-false thing. Xiaoshan, you are taking too many risks, sort. Douluo suddenly spoke and scolded in a serious tone. A person dares to absorb soul rings in the far north. What if he is attacked by a soul beast? Teacher, Xiaoshan, your master is right. Living is the most important thing. With me and Qian here, we can help you hunt for any soul ring you want. Just remember not to be so reckless again. Don't do such risky things again. Ning, Fengzi, Qian, and Gurang all had serious faces, scolding Lingtian for being too reckless this time, and the consequences of failure, etc. Point they really treat Lingtian as their own child. No matter how good the soul ring or soul bone is, it will not be as good as his safe return. Teacher, Uncle Ning, Grandpa Gu, I will definitely not do it next time. Lingtian also understands this, so he has been actively admitting his mistakes and promised that he will never make them again in the future. Point finally, after another half hour of admonishment, the group finally came to an end point. Lingtian also quickly took over the conversation and introduced his newly acquired soul skills to divert their attention. Teacher, Uncle Ning, Grandpa Gu is optimistic about me. Qian Zin waited for people to look at the mysterious Lingtian and also set off a curious look. Point. As soon as the words fell, Lingtian's figure flashed in place. Teacher, immediately, behind the heart, a familiar voice came, and Lingtian, who turned around to summon the extremely cold ice armor, was standing behind him. Inspector and armor. A bit of interest. The heart stretched out a finger, and the fingertips gently on the ice armor. Click. Click. After a few seconds, there were fine cracks on the ice armor. Although the ice armor was broken, the heart nodded with satisfaction. Very good. I can withstand the soul power of the soul level. Teacher, more than that. There was another Lingtian in front of the heart, but one of the Lingtian is composed of ice sculpture. This is not your original. Before speaking, Qian saw that the ice sculpture started to punch, and the action was brisk and agile. Except for the body consisting of ice cubes, there was no difference from normal people. How about it? Alas, Lingtian Let's Bing sculpture exploded between the heart and the ancient ban iron, demonstrating its last ability. Very good. These soul skills are very practical. The three people nodded in unison, and the three soul skills of Lingtian were really good. They were matching the original soul skills, defense, and flexibility. Point. After a while, after advising Lingtian for some time, the three asked him to go back to rest. After staying outside the windmill for more than half a month, it was easy to come back. Of course, he had to take a good rest for a while. Point. Looking at Lingtian's departure, Ning Fengzi narrowed his eyes and smiled. Xiaoshan's child is lucky, and an accident has become his chance. You received a good apprentice. Gu Rang glanced at the dust next to him, and he also said with emotion, with the current strength of this boy, Zhang Ning and his peers who are afraid of no one will be his opponent. My apprentice, if it is the strongest, Qian said, but the smile on his eyes betrayed his true thoughts. Gu Rang looked at the heart uncomfortably. Hey, you are a bitch, boasting that you are still pretending to be here. Dust his head and glanced at him. Why do you want to play with me? Gu Rang stared back without showing weakness. Just fight. Who is afraid of whom? Walk. Go. Uncle Bone. Uncle Jian. At this moment, Ning Fengzi stopped the two who were about to fight, and there was a touch of brightly in his eyes and proposed. You said, if you say that Rang and Xiaoshan are together, do you do it? Rang Rang and Xiaoshan. Originally, the tense heart and Gurang suddenly stopped and looked at Ningfeng to look at Ningfeng to look at it with a glance. Uncle Jian, Uncle Bone, what do you think? I think it's good. The younger generation of Kibao Liu Lizang, no one's talent is compared to Xiaoshan. If Rang really likes it, Xiaoshan is indeed the best choice. I have no opinion. I don't know what Rang and Xiaoshan thinks. Feelings need to be cultivated. There was a deep smile in the peaceful wind between the words. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Tian-039, Essers. 3 days later, Kibao Liu Lizang, Xiaoshan, uncle has something to help. Ningfeng, in the study, said to Lingtian, who was just found. Rang secretly slipped out of Zhangmen last night. Although there were Zhangmen disciples secretly protected again, with Rang's character, those disciples had no way to take the disciples at all points. She brought it back. Lingtian asked tentatively, so Uncle Ning, do you want me to bring me back to Sister Rang? Yes, Ning. Feng's he showed a helpless look on his face. The younger generation of Zhangmen can speak to Rang, so this matter can only be asked for you. Give me it, Uncle Ning. Lingtian agreed very quickly. It happened that he would also want to be the son of the destiny of the Douluo world for a while, and the members of the protagonist who were around him. Then, ask you, Ning, Feng told softly. A few disciples of Qian Zhangmen returned a few days ago, saying that Rang joined a college in Soto City. If possible, it is best to bring her back to Zhangmen. I know, Uncle Ning. If there are no other arrangements, I will go back and prepare first. Well, trouble you, Xiaoshan. Looking at Lingtian's back, there was a deep meaning of Ningfeng's eyes. He can do his best to match two people. I hope that these two children can really go together in the end. Do you want to go back to the prince? When passing by Qian Daocheng, Lingtian stopped. Remember the last time you met, or 3 months ago? Wouldn't you go back at this time, sister? Rang should not be in a hurry. Lingtian thought of it, and then turned around and walked into the door of Qian Dou City. In the prince, His Royal Highness, Lingtian is back. As soon as Qian Renxue, who was dealing with the document, suddenly got up with a surprise color, and then threw any memorials that had just been processed by half of it, and turned to run outside the temple. Plugs or something. How can she have a spiritual family? Nympho in the courtyard. The Lingtian of the blue clothes came out, like a white skin tone. The handsome and delicate facial features have corners. Blue hair fluttering, the clothes fluttering, the corner of the mouth is shallow, the look is gentle, like a fairy. Prince, brother, with a call as always. Waking Qian Renxue. This person is his own brother, Xiao Shan. She ran to Lingtian quickly and hugged him tightly in her arms. After a while, throughout Qian Renxue, like 4 years ago, he held Lingtian's hand and said with emotion, it's taller, it's also handsome, but how does your hair become blue? When an accident occurs when absorbing the soul bone, the hair becomes this color. It's okay, the blue is pretty good. Qian Renxue rubbed his head with a smile, and the children were really like one day. It was only 3 months before, and Lingtian had at least 20 centimeters higher than the previous time, but fortunately, he did not change his attitude towards himself, and he was still as close as when he was a child. Xiaoshan, you shouldn't cultivate in Kibao Liu Lizang. Why have time back to the prince house? Don't talk about this first. Lingtian blinked, looking at Qian Renxue with a little proudly. Prince's brother, guess how much level of my soul power is now? You must not guess. I'm now 34th level of the soul of the 34 levels. Respect. Before Qian Renxue talked, Lingtian couldn't help saying it. Qian Renxue looked at Lingtian in surprise. 34th level. He knew that Lingtian's soul caca had been at the 29th year, but he did not expect that it only broke through the 5th level in 3 months. 10-year-old soul son. I'm afraid that even the golden generation of the Washan temple that the woman is cultivated is comparable, right? Xiao Shan, your soul power. Suddenly, Qian Renxue thought about what. His face changed tightly, holding Lingtian's arm, and asked eagerly, "Are you to break through the soul? What forbidden, Prince? Prince, you think of there." Lingtian glanced at Qian Renxue, and then explained the soul bones and soul ring again. "I see." Qian Renxue was relieved, but he still told him seriously, "Xiaoshan, you have to remember the soul power to improve the shortcut, otherwise the price will be paid sooner or later." "Brother." "Prince, I won't." Lingtian is very satisfied with his own soul power. How can he break the future for the benefit in front of you? Well, just understand. Qian Renxue squeezed Lingtian's cheeks, restored his previous smile, and asked mildly, "So Xiaoshan, how long are you going to stay this time?" "I'm leaving soon." Lingtian sighed a little regretful, and his hands were dragging his head on the desktop with his head, and raising his head. "I will see you on the side this time, and I will go to Soto City in a while, so fast." "Well, Sister Ran ran out of sun. Uncle Ning asked me to take her back as soon as possible." "That, Xiaoshan, you will wait for a while now. I go to take something to get you." Qian Renxue suddenly remembered something, and then rubbed the soft blue hair, and got up, and walked towards the house point. After a while Qian Renxue handed a light brown box to Lingtian. "Prince." "Brother, what is this?" "Open it, Kangpi." "Open the wooden box. There is a exquisite blue ring inside, a rice and phoenix around the ring point." Lingtian looked at Qian Renxue in doubt. "Ring? She has given herself before the storage ring. What does it mean to wear this ring on my hand?" Qian Renxue saw Lingtian's doubts, and explained softly, "The space of the storage ring before was too small, only 20 cubic meters, but this phoenix ring was 5 times the previous ring space. This ring was bought in auction houses at that time." Qian Renxue was invited to participate in a large auction, the third of which was the pair of rings. "That's right. One is the phoenix ring carved with Bingfeng, and the other is the phoenix ring carved with Binghuan point, and the storage space of these 2 rings is common." Point at the first glance, she saw this ring, and she took it decisively, and prepared a one to Lingtian, and left it to herself. Point however, because some time ago, the plan for Zui came to a critical moment. As the executor of the Tian Dou Empire's annexation plan, Qian Renxue could not take time to send this phoenix to Lingtian. 5 times 20 cubic meters of 5 times is 100 cubic meters. This space is too big. "Xiaoshan, I can help you wear it." Between the words, Qian Renxue raised Lingtian's right hand, took out the ice blue phoenix ring, put on the middle finger of Lingtian, put on her ring, and the little guy was her person. Thinking of the phoenix ring in the study, a satisfactory smile appeared at the corner of Qian Renxue's mouth. Chapter 29 Qian Renxue and Lingtian. "Brother Prince, what's wrong?" "Xiaoshan, no, it's nothing." Lingtian originally wanted to say that the ring strap was in the wrong position, but then he thought that there might be no such thing as Earth and Douluo continent, so Zuking put the ring on his middle finger so he doesn't care about this little thing. A moment later, the study room of the prince's mansion. "Xiaoshan is gone again. If I had known earlier, I shouldn't have been allowed to go to the Kibao glazed sect. How great is the Tian Dou Royal Academy, and I can see the little guy every day." When she thought that the little guy had turned into a teenager in the blink of an eye, a look of annoyance flashed in Qian Renxue's beautiful eyes. She regretted it. "I regret my decision to let Lingtian go to Kibao glazed sect to study. It would be great if I could keep him by my side, so that I could see the little guy every day, and not miss the 4 years of growth of the little guy, let alone say goodbye in a hurry like today. No. I have to find a reason to get Xiaoshan back." Qian Renxue murmured in a low voice, and made a decision secretly in her heart. She will go to Ningfengxi in a few days, to get her little one back. 4 years is enough for her to stay with you. Why does her stay in the Kibao glazed sect all the time? The little guy has grown up, and is not as cute as before, but he is not bad now. He is quite handsome. Qian Renxue's pretty face turned crimson when she thought that she had quietly turned into a cool and handsome young man who could not be ignored. "What's the matter?" When she saw Snake Spear Douluo appearing in the darkness, Qian Renxue had already regained her composure. "Your Highness," she long cupped his hands, and said in a deep voice, "Someone from the Pope's palace wants to see you." "Palace of the Pope?" Qian Renxue was stunned for a moment, but quickly regained her composure and said, "Let him come in." "Yes." She Long's figure slowly retreated. A few minutes later, Yuguan, "I have met His Highness." "You? Changfeng, I didn't expect that she would send you." Her confidant, "Here, Qian." Renxue has now recovered her original voice, which is as clear and ethereal as gurgling water or orchids in an empty valley, and is more beautiful than any melody in time. "His Majesty the Pope knows that your plan has reached a critical stage, so he specially sent his subordinates to assist you." Douluo Yuguan said in a respectful tone with his hands clasped in fists. "Snort, Qian." Renxue snorted coldly and said disdainfully, "I think she asked you to take the credit." "Well, you." Guan was speechless for a moment, not knowing what to say. "Taking credit? Did I express my meaning incorrectly? How could he compete with Qian Renxue for credit?" And listening to Her Royal Highness the Saint Stone, "Something feels wrong. Aren't she and His Majesty the Pope biological mother and daughter? Could it be said that this is Wu Hundian's unique way of getting along with mother and daughter?" But even though he couldn't understand, Yuguan still continued to say good things. "Your Highness, you think too much. His Majesty the Pope is still very concerned about you and is always paying attention to you." Enough. There was a look of disgust in Qian Renxue's eyes. "If there is nothing else, please disappear as soon as possible. Mr. Xu will see you off." His Majesty the Pope heard that you have been paying more attention to a teenage boy next to you in recent years, so he specially asked your subordinates to ask you about your specific thoughts, and also to see if this boy will affect your plans. You Guan saw Qian Renxue's attitude of chasing people away if they disagreed with her, so she quickly explained the mission in detail without any nonsense apostrophe. How did she know? Qian Renxue's eyes trembled slightly, but she soon regained her composure. That's right. She is His Majesty the Pope of Wuhan Palace. Wu Hundian's power spread across the entire continent, and Qian Dou City naturally had her eyes and ears. The sudden appearance of a child beside her was no secret. She could find out about it with just a little investigation. "What else did she ask you to convey to me?" "His Majesty the Pope also asked you not to forget your mission." You Guan glanced at Qian Renxue. "Don't delay the great cause of Wuhan Palace because of some people. Otherwise she..." Qian Renxue suppressed her anger. "What else?" "His Majesty will personally help you solve the obstacles." After Yu Guan finished speaking quickly, he stepped aside. He could clearly feel Qian Renxue's anger. Bang! A delicate teacup was crushed to pieces by Qian Renxue. "She dares solve it yourself." That vicious woman Bibi Dong was threatening Lingtian's life. Qian Renxue was filled with anger at this moment. "I can't wait to go back to Wuhan Palace now and ask that woman why she wants to interfere in her affairs. My subordinates are just following orders. I'm just a messenger. Don't be angry with me. If I had known that the relationship between the Pope and his daughter was like this, I would not have taken this job. I would have been like an old ghost. Wouldn't it be better to just stay with him comfortably in Wuhan Palace?" She can't get it, and she won't let me get it. Her originally calm eyes were now filled with anger. She glared at Yu Guan and said word by word, "Yu Guan, you go back and tell her to warn her that no one can touch Xiaoshan. If you dare to touch a hair of Xiaoshan, I will fight her till death." "Yes." Although he agreed with his hands, Yu Guan complained in his heart, "Haha, you should say this in person. I can at best convey your meaning apostrophe. He is just a worshipper. Neither the Pope nor the saint can offend him." After conveying Bibi Dong's order, he didn't want to stay in front of Qian Renxue for another second. He has finally seen through it. Qian Renxue, like Bibi Dong and her daughter, both have very bad tempers. As long as it involves Qian Renxue in the future, he will never get involved again. "Your Highness, Elder. She, please go down too. I want to be alone for a while." "Yes." She Long sighed and left the room immediately. "Bibi Dong," Qian Renxue murmured, and a glistening teardrop flashed across the corner of her eye. Qian Renxue hated her and blamed her. She didn't know why Bibi Dong had hated her so much since she was a child. If it hadn't been for her grandfather Qian Dou, she might have frozen to death. While Bibi Dong was still in the snow point, she took away her mother's love and father's love point. Although her grandfather was very kind to her, he could not replace her parents after all. It was for this reason that she gradually developed a character that put interests first and would use any means to achieve her goals. When she first took Lingtian away, she valued his potential more point, but as time went by, Lingtian unknowingly changed her attitude, allowing her to gradually shift from her potential to herself. Until now, Lingtian has occupied an important position in her heart point for Qian Renxue. The appearance of Lingtian is like a beam of light in life, illuminating her originally peaceful and dark world, and making ripples appear in her peaceful life point. Therefore, Qian Renxue will never tolerate Bibi Dong attacking Lingtian. This is her only bottom line now. Chapter 30 SOTO-039 S Great Soul Battle. 2 days later, drive a luxurious and elegant carriage stopped smoothly outside the gate of Soto City. Master, Lingtian, Soto City has arrived. A calm voice came from inside the carriage point. Then Lingtian opened the car curtain and walked out of the car. Thanks for your hard work. This is the duty of my subordinates. Zhu. Ling bowed and saluted, and then said in a respectful manner, if you have no other arrangements, I will prepare to return home and resume my duties with His Highness. Well, let's go back. Lingtian nodded and then added, remember to help me and the prince brother stay safe. Zuling cupped her hands and responded, yes. Then he drove the carriage in the opposite direction from whence he came. Zuling sighed sadly while driving the car. He is a 6th ring Soul Emperor of the agility and attack system, and he is somewhat famous in Qian Dou City. How come he is now reduced to a horseman driving a carriage as he goes back to work more and more? Although his status in the prince's mansion has not changed now, it still feels a little strange. It seems that ever since that time in the frozen forest, I have been bound to driving the carriage. At the same time, Lingtian has entered Soto City at this moment. In a shop under the Kibao glazed sect. A young disciple wearing white sect clothes bowed to Lingtian and saluted. Inner disciple Ningyu, I have met senior brother Lingtian. Lingtian asked, well, where is senior sister Rangrang now? Ning Yuli lowered his head beside Lingtian and said in a calm tone, the young sect master joined a soul master academy called Shrek. After coming to Soto City, the young sect master should still be in the academy at this time. Shrek Academy. Lingtian's cold eyes turned slightly as he thought Ning Rangrang still went to Shrek Academy so that he could also meet Tanks and besides that, there is one more important thing. Ning Rangrang in the few years since he first became a disciple of Sword Douluo, he never made any friends because of his temperament. But Ning Rangrang didn't care about the cold chill on his body and became his only friend, adding a bit of fun to his ordinary life. Because of this, he truly regarded Ning Rangrang as his senior sister. Therefore, it was impossible for him to let the original Ning Rangrang be bullied and isolated by them. If possible, he would bring Ning Rangrang back to the sect. With the memory of the Ice God, he was confident that Ning Rangrang's future achievements would be no less than those in the original work. Seeing that Lingtian didn't speak for a long time, Ningyu hesitated for a while and then decided to ask, senior brother, if we leave now, we will make arrangements immediately. Lingtian shook his head and said calmly, just tell me the direction and location. The general direction is in a small village in the south outside Qian Dou City. After thinking in his mind for a while, Ningyu said succinctly, senior brother, you can encounter that village as long as you keep going south. Shrek Academy is in the village. You can return to the clan and leave the rest to me. After getting the general direction, Lingtian didn't stay too long and left the shop of Kibao glazed sect. Recalling the exchange with Lingtian just now, Ningxian's eyes flashed with curiosity and he murmured in a low voice, but senior brother Lingtian is not as cold and aloof as the sect's rumors say, and is difficult to approach. That thing probably hasn't happened yet. Lingtian felt that Ning Rangrang had just arrived at Shrek for a few days, and the plot had not developed to that point yet. In addition, the sky was getting dark now, and it was difficult to distinguish the defense lines outside the city at night, so he decided to rest in Soto City for a while. Depart later. As soon as he went out, Lingtian saw a stall selling candied haws on a street corner. He thought he hadn't eaten for a while, so he walked straight over. "Boss, here's a candied horse on a stick." "Okay, sir, I'll get it for you." Click. After taking a bite, it still tasted the same as before, and Lingtian took another bite with satisfaction. Then, while eating candied horse, I wandered along the streets of Soto City, looking for a place to stay. However, Lingtian's mouth never stopped on the way to find the hotel. Basically, when he saw something delicious, he would buy one to try, and his hands were never empty. A few minutes later, Lingtian saw a hotel with restrained decoration. "Just stay here tonight." Lingtian, who was already full, didn't want to go any further, plus he had a good first impression of this hotel. "Get a room, single person." Lingtian opened his palm and placed a silver soul coin on the counter. "Okay, sir." The staff at the front desk of the hotel showed a signature smile, and then quickly went through a series of processes such as collecting money, registering, and finding keys. "Your room is on the second floor, the third room on the left. Here is the key to the room and your money." With or thought in his mind, Lingtian took the Yaoian soul coin back into the ring point. Just when he was about to go upstairs to rest, he saw a strange building not far away. It was nearly 100 meters high, extremely huge, and looked extremely deep in the night. And from the huge building, the lights are bright, and it looks very lively. Lingtian retracted his gaze, pointed at the tall building not far away and asked, "What is there?" "Soto Great Spirit Arena." The front desk staff also explained enthusiastically, "Many powerful soul masters will fight there. If you are interested, sir, I recommend you to go and have a look." Soul Fighting Arena. Thinking that the last time he participated in a soul fight was in Ice and Snow City a month ago, Lingtian, who had not fought a soul for a while, couldn't help but feel a little itchy. In addition, he had just been promoted to Soul Master and wanted to see what his strength was. Go and have a fight first. Lingtian quickly made up his mind. Then he walked towards the direction of Soto Great Spirit Arena. As the second largest economic city in the Qian Dou Empire, although the spirit fighting arena here is also a large spirit fighting arena, its overall size and area are much grander and larger than that of Ice and Snow City. It seems to be at least equivalent to the area of 2 to 3 Ice and Snow Spirit battle arenas. "I hope I can meet a good opponent," Lingtian thought with some anticipation. Because this place is in the heart of the Qian Dou Empire, and is not sparsely populated like Ice and Snow City, the number and quality of spirit masters in the spirit fighting arena are generally much higher than those in Ice and Snow City. Therefore, it is more likely to meet a powerful soul master as the distance approached. The full picture of the Soto Great Soul Fighting Field was also revealed in front of Lingtian. Soto Great Spirit Arena. The overall shape is oval, with a height of 120 meters. The interior is divided into a main soul fighting arena and 24 sub-spirit fighting arenas. The number of powerful soul masters is countless. The internal area can accommodate 60,000 spectators at the same time, including 100 VIP boxes. This is not only a place for soul masters to discuss and communicate, but also a place for all forces to show their strength. Looking at the huge and towering building in front of him, Lingtian felt that he had underestimated the Soto Spirit Arena just now. Chapter 31 Sword Emperor. Tian-039. Sim. Although the sky outside has become dark, the lights inside the Soto Great Spirit Fighting Arena are brightly lit, like daylight, and there are always many spectators or spirit masters filing in through the gate. When you walk into the Great Soul Fighting Arena, the first thing that catches your eye is a huge stone tablet with densely packed names carved on it. Lingtian has also seen similar stone tablets in the Ice and Snow Great Soul Fighting Arena. Knowing that the names on it are all about fighting the dead in the Battle of Souls, one-on-one soul fighting. After walking up to the staff responsible for registration, Lingtian said in a calm tone. At the same time, Lingtian also took out the purple and gold soul fighting medal obtained in Ice and Snow City. The medal is the Soul Master's identity certificate and proof of participating in the soul fighting competition. Only soul masters who have registered for the medal are eligible to compete here. Purple and gold medal. The staff member who originally maintained professional etiquette exclaimed in surprise, and then said in an enthusiastic tone, "Sir, what level of soul master do you want to fight against?" After The staff confirmed that the medal was correct. They stared at Lingtian eagerly. This was not the first time she had seen a purple and gold medal of Soul Masters, but it was the first time she had seen such a young holder of the purple and gold medal of soul fighting in so many years of working at the Soto Grand Soul Fighting Arena. Purple, gold soul sect above level 40. After Lingtian thought for a while, he decided to test his strength against the soul sect first. After all, he had fought against many soul sects when he rescued ZHU's Yuking before, so he was still somewhat confident in this. Okay, your fighting spirit is scheduled for the third game. After the staff matched a suitable opponent, Lingtian put away the purple gold medal and walked to the rest area provided by the Soto Soul Fighting Arena for soul masters participating in the soul battle. It was a large area with many soul masters, but very quiet. Seeing the young faces that suddenly came in, these soul masters also showed a bit of surprise, but they did not make fun of them and were quietly adjusting their breath to prepare for the battle. At the same time, just as Lingtian had completed his registration and was waiting to enter, a middle-aged man with eyes walked in from outside the Soto Spirit Fighting Arena, followed by 4 boys and girls wearing masks. Xiaozhen, that's the registration place over there. It's the first time for you, Xiaoan. Zuking to register for an Iron Fighting Soul medal. Well, let's go register now. Tang Sun nodded to Dame Yubei and then took Xiao Wu to register for the Soul Fighting medal. Zuking, do you need? Before Dame Yubei finished speaking, ZHU Zuking passed him directly and walked to the side where the medals were registered, leaving him and Ma Hongjian standing there awkwardly. Ma Hongjian winked at Dame Yubei and said, Boss Day, you can't do this either. Gun. Tell me your name, Day. Yubei irritably took off Ma Hongjian's arm and then walked to the other side to sign up with a sullen face. At this moment, we are in a one-on-one spirit battle. A middle-aged man in a tuxedo was standing in the center. He cleared his throat and said loudly, now, the third match of one-on-one soul fighting in our 14th soul fighting field will be held. They are, here he paused, igniting the atmosphere of the whole scene. They have won 231 games in a row in the soul fighting arena with the purple gold soul lord and the sword emperor Bingji, who have won 231 games without a single defeat. They are facing off against the veteran soul sect strongman who has won 205 games. Break the army with the gun and break the army. Please. Everyone invites both parties to the stage with warm applause. Oh my god, it's actually Po Jun. This guy is about to become the Soul King. Does anyone know who this Bingji is? Why is he called the Sword Emperor in such a loud voice? Hiss, I seem to have heard of this name. Leap level challenge. I haven't seen it for a long time. I hope it doesn't end too soon. The atmosphere at the scene was completely ignited, and the audience started discussing with great interest even before the Soul Master entered the room. After a while, Lingtian walked out wearing the half-faced fox mask out of habit. Standing opposite him was a slightly frail Soul Master who was probably in his 30s. He looked at Lingtian with dark eyes. At first glance, he looked like a guy with a gloomy mind. At the same time, after hearing this, Xiao Wu, who was sitting in the audience, took Tang San's arm and curled her lips. Sword Emperor. This person is so courageous. The Soul Lord dares to challenge the Soul Sect. Tang San stared at Lingtian on the soul fighting stage and said softly, since he is called the Sword King, he should have something good about him. Sword Emperor. It's him. ZHU Zuking, who was also sitting aside, was suddenly stunned, and then his eyes widened, and he stared at the familiar figure below without blinking. His originally cold eyes were now filled with surprise. That's him. Although she was now dressed in blue, she still showed up with the same mask and martial spirit. Why is he here? After Lingtian left that day, ZHU Zuking, who had completely gotten rid of the last one, came to Shrek Academy smoothly. But she always wanted to know in her heart, who was the boy who saved her that day. She originally thought she would never meet the boy again from that day on, but she didn't expect to meet him today in the spirit fighting arena. Zuking, what's wrong with you? It was then that Xiao Wu on the side noticed something was wrong with ZHU Zuking's state and asked with concern. No, it's okay, ZHU. Zuking didn't say anything and returned to his previous cold appearance. But at this moment, her eyes were fixed on the young man on the ring. This time she must know the young man's name. At the same time, the middle-aged referee had already walked to the side of the soul fighting stage and saw that the two people had already set up their stance. After a moment of confirmation, he immediately shouted, "The soul fighting begins." Po. Qian took the lead in attacking. 4 soul rings, 1 white, 2 yellow, and 1 purple, flashed on the gun body. I saw him leap deeply, and with the flash of white and yellow soul rings, he handed the army-breaking spear forward with his right hand, and the tip of the spear stabbed Lingtian's face like a silver dragon. When Lingtian, on the other hand, held the Bingji Frost sword horizontally with his backhand, just in time to block the shot. The first soul skill, serial thrusts, immediately afterwards, a gleam of light flashed across Po Qian's eyes, and at the same time, a bright light flashed from the tip of the gun, and a series of thrusts were stabbed hard. Lingtian was suppressed for a while, and kept moving back, and pulling away. Po Qian, on the other hand, pressed forward step by step, and as the third soul ring on the gun body lit up, the attack became more fierce. "It's over. That boy has fallen into the rhythm of Po Qian. Hey, Po Qian's 3 axes are invincible against these newly arrived soul masters on the soul fighting stage." Some old viewers who often watched Po Qian fighting soul were staring at Lingtian with a little regret at the moment, who had been suppressed to the edge. This is a common method used by Po Qian. He first suppresses the opponent with a thrust, then uses high-intensity attacks to continuously compress the opponent's space for movement, and then uses the final blow to knock the opponent off the stage. In the eyes of these viewers, Lingtian, a soul master, would definitely not be able to withstand the final killing move. About to lose. No, that guy can deal with so many soul masters by himself. At this moment, Zhu King was staring at the ring without blinking, but his little hands were nervously clenched into fists, silently supporting the young man from the bottom of his heart. Chapter 30. Tushi, you can also move. At the same time, on the stage, "Get down here." Just as the old spectators expected, seeing that Lingtian had been suppressed to the sidelines, he suddenly pushed back half a step. As the third yellow soul ring lit up, he struggled forward to deliver a fatal blow. A powerful and heavy wave of half-moon spears headed towards Lingtian. Boom. The gun wave hit the protective shield hard, causing ripples for a while. However, as the dust falls to the ground, where other people, Po Qian suddenly frowned. Thinking he had won, he looked forward intently, but did not find Lingtian's figure under the ring. His opponent wasn't pushed out. Seeing that there was no one under the ring, he seemed to realize something. Blade of ice. Suddenly, a cold voice came from behind him, and before he could turn his head, a sword suddenly cut along a narrow wound on his back that was deep enough to see the bone. At the same time, the cold and biting soul power from the sword poured into his body and eroded him. The soul power. Immediately afterwards, Lingtian flashed in front of him again, and his sword wave, which had already been charged up, slashed towards Po Qian. Po Qian, who was originally confident of winning, took a turn for the worse at this moment. The situation in the battle was like this. In just 1 second, due to a moment of carelessness, the situation of the battle was reversed in an instant. Reluctantly, Po Qian stared closely at Lingtian. He didn't want to lose at the hands of a child. Po Qian shouted violently, and as the last purple soul ring lit up, his whole body suddenly swelled up, exuding a powerful aura. The sudden increase in strength and soul power gave Po Qian a little more confidence. Immediately afterwards, he swung his gun forward and struck hard, with the momentum and power even greater than before. Boom. The gun marks collided with the sword waves, and they were locked in a stalemate. The attention of all the audience at the scene was also attracted by the two people, and they all speculated who would win in the end. But before the audience could come to a conclusion, Lingtian swung his sword and struck out with the same sword wave. The two sword waves superimposed and directly smashed the traces of the gun. He hit the gun barrel hard and pushed him directly out of the ring, hitting him on the protective ring. Energy cover uses way and give back to him. Don't you want to push me out? Then I will use your most common method and use the same method to push Po Qian out of the soul fighting platform. It's over. Lingtian's eyes were a little disappointed. I thought this was a formidable opponent who might have mastery of marksmanship, or will point I didn't expect that he was just an opportunistic guy. Looking at his skillful movements, maybe those few victories were won in this way, right? Thinking of this, Lingtian turned his head to look at the referee, and asked in a cold voice, "Can it be announced, Guji?" The referee made a swallowing gesture, and then quickly came to the stage and announced, Sword Emperor Bingji wins, with a record of 232 wins, and still maintains a winning streak. Sword King. After a short period of silence, a wave of waves arose in the Soto Spirit Fighting Arena. 232 wins, and no defeat. This achievement is dazzling, and deserves their applause. ZHU Zuking, who was sitting in the audience, did not blend in at this moment. Her eyes were looking around for Lingtian. The young man who was still on the stage just now disappeared again after the referee announced the end, and no trace could be found at all. We going to miss it again. ZHU Zuking bit her lower lip tightly, her cold face full of bitterness and unwillingness. Zuking, Zaro. Woo, what's wrong? Your game is about to begin. Your opponent is Zaro-san, and your number is being called. Thank you, Zaro. Woo, I understand. I'll go there now. ZHU Zuking took one last look at the audience, and walked off the stage in disappointment. How did Zuking come here? Looking at ZHU Zuking's back, Zaro Wu felt a little strange, but she couldn't tell how strange it was. Wonderful. At this moment, Lingtian, who had changed into a purple robe, was sitting in the audience, watching the battle between the two Soul Emperors with great interest. These two are both powerful Soul Emperors. One martial spirit is a violent earth bear, and the other's martial spirit is a snow mountain giant ape. The muscles of these two powerful Soul Emperors were bulging with veins, and they were as majestic as steel. Their huge bodies made the soul fighting platform shake with every collision and every confrontation. This kind of physical fighting spirit is really exciting to watch. No wonder the stands here are almost full of people. But just take a look. He has no interest in muscular men. An hour later, in front of the Soto Great Spirit Fighting Arena, it's time to go back to bed. Lingtian stretched out his waist comfortably and prepared to go back to the hotel and have a good sleep. It's really fun to watch powerful soul masters battle, but it's also time consuming. They are of equal strength, and the quality of their souls is about the same. The winner can only be determined by consuming almost all their soul power. But just at this moment, Lingtian faintly heard a noise in front of him, and the sound seemed a bit familiar. Grong, don't challenge my patience. This is Shrek Academy, not your home. Others are afraid of you, the 7 treasure glazed tile sect, but I, Daimyo Bei, are not afraid. If you make me angry, I will rape you first, and then kill you. Rape and murder. Daimyo Bei said coldly with a cold light in his eyes, having just been angered by ZHU Zuking. He was furious at the moment, his eyes red with murderous intent. It was obvious that he was not joking at this moment. Ning Rangrang smiled and said, I'm so scared. Then, she deliberately puffed up her chest and said, come on. Let me see what you do to me. Ning Rangrang, who has completely liberated her nature, is the little witch of the Kibeo glazed sect. She has been fearless since she was a child. How could she be afraid of Daimyo Bei's threat? Daimyo Bei couldn't hold back the anger in his heart anymore. If Beihu doesn't show off his power, you will really treat me like a sick cat. Immediately, a strong aura surged inside her body, and Daimyo Bei's soul power exploded instantly, rushing towards the unprepared Ning Rangrang. Just when she was about to be blown away, a purple figure suddenly appeared and blocked her. In front of you. The person coming is none other than Lingtian. Then he stretched out a palm, and a sudden surge of soul power flew Daimyo Bei away. Mu Bei, Tang, San and others quickly went to help Daimyo Bei up. Junior brother Lingtian. After Ning Rangrang saw the person clearly, there was a look of surprise in her eyes. Senior Sister Rangrang, we can talk about old times later. Lingtian turned his head and showed a hint of warmth in his stern eyes, signaling Ning Rangrang to go to the back and leave this matter to him. You can also touch her. Although the sentence was a question, Lingtian's voice was calm without any fluctuation. At the same time, when he turned his head, his originally gentle eyes became as cold as ice. He kept staring straight at Damu Bei, which was so cold that it made people feel uncomfortable. To any warmth. Chapter 33 The Arrogant Damu Bei. Damu Bei got up from the ground in embarrassment, his eyes filled with anger. Who are you? 7. Treasures glazed sect, Lingtian, held the Bingji frost sword in his right hand. The tip of the sword was pointed at Damu Bei at a slight angle. The 3 blue soul rings on the sword lit up one after another at this moment. Lingtian's face was filled with an icy chill. I didn't expect that thing would happen tonight. Lingtian couldn't help but feel a little lucky that he had come to the soul fighting field tonight, just in time to catch up with this matter, and that Ning Rangrang was not bullied by this group of people like in the original work. The proud little princess has not lost her original pride. List Lingtian, right? I'm in a very unhappy mood right now. It's just the right time for you to jump out. Damu Bei stood up again and looked at Lingtian, who was alone, and then at Tanks and Xiao and others beside him. He felt a little more confident and returned to his previous arrogant look. Mu Bei, wait a moment. Tang San suddenly walked up to Damu Bei and stopped him with his hand point at the same time. He looked at the Bingji frost sword with concentration, and he recognized that this sword was the martial spirit of the person on the soul fighting stage before. Xiao San, what are you doing? Damu Bei frowned and stared at Tang San with an angry look that was somewhat puzzled. Could it be that Tang San wanted to stand up for this kid? Thinking of the endless hidden weapons that appeared when Tang San fought against Zhao Wuji a few days ago, Damu Bei's eyes moved slightly and looked at Tang San with some fear. If he really takes action, then Mu Bei, you misunderstood. Tang San turned his head and explained in a solemn tone, if I guess correctly, this person seems to be the purple gold fighting soul Bingji who was on the soul fighting stage at that time. Bingji, the host's introduction on the soul fighting stage echoed in Damu Bei's ears again. 322 soul fights in total, no defeat, purple and gold soul fighting medal, and smashing to death the easily defeated level 39 soul master in front of him. Damu Bei's eyes flickered uncertainly. He has been training in the Soto Great Soul Fighting Arena for so long, and he still has the Iron Soul Fighting medal. He naturally knows the concept of winning more than 300 consecutive games in the purple and gold soul fighting medal. Mistress, please leave it alone. But at this moment, Damu Bei was already riding a tiger. He is Damu Bei, a 37th level battle soul master. He has always behaved forcefully and openly in Soto City. How could he possibly swallow such a breath? So he still pulled Tang San's arm that was blocking him. His eyes were filled with murderous intent again, and he said in a cold and solemn tone, so what about the purple and gold soul fighting medal? Maybe it's just good luck. The tone sounded very strong, but it was a bit lacking in confidence. It felt more like he was trying to embolden himself. Mu Bei, Tang San hesitated to speak, but finally retreated behind him. Never mind. He and Damu Bei were just ordinary friends who had just known each other for a few days. Since he was determined to take action, there was nothing he could do. The worst case scenario is that when he is about to lose his strength, you can help him yourself. After all, he is a classmate of the academy, so it is best not to let the situation lead to consequences that cannot be ended. White tiger, possessed. Then a layer of intense pale light surrounded Damu Bei. The next moment, Damu Bei stretched his arms to both sides at the same time, raised his chest, and the bones in his body crackled, and his muscles suddenly expanded, holding up the clothes on his body. Every muscle became extremely obvious under his clothes, and even the air around him seemed to have become manic. His blonde hair instantly turned into black and white, with white accounting for the majority, but a few strands of black hair were particularly obvious. 4 faint lines appeared on his forehead, 3 horizontally and 1 vertically, forming the character point. His hands changed the most, becoming twice as big as before. White hair covered the entire palm. As his fingers flicked, dagger-like claws continued to poke out and retract from his palms. Each of the sharp claws was like a blade, 8 inches long. It shone with a dark and cold light. Damu Bei's upper body slowly leaned forward, and the 4 pupils of his eyes turned into a deep blue, giving the impression that he was like a killing machine. The second soul skill, White Tiger Fierce Light Wave. Liu Bei launched the attack first point along with a tiger roar. A ball of milky white light spurted out from the mouth point brush. Just when the light ball was about to hit, Lingtian just raised his hand and waved his sword, easily splitting the light ball in half point. Although Liu Bei was angry, he was not stupid. The white tiger's fierce light wave just now was just a tentative attack. The purpose was to divert Lingtian's attention and buy time for him to complete the release of the other two soul skills. The second soul skill, White Tiger Protective Barrier. Suddenly, a milky white halo surrounded Liu Bei, and then he continued without any pause. The third soul skill, White Tiger Vajra Transformation. 2 soul rings, one yellow and one purple, lit up under his feet. His evil eyes suddenly turned blood red, and the billowing soul power instantly surged out, blasting all the surrounding earth and rocks into powder immediately afterwards. Liu Bei's body, which had already changed significantly, underwent a second transformation. His muscles suddenly bulged, and the clothes on his body could not withstand the pressure and exploded into pieces of rags hanging on his body. White Tiger Protective Barrier and White Tiger Vajra Transformation have two soul skills, both of which come with bonuses that can improve Liu Bei's attributes. So he releases these two soul skills at the same time. This is also Liu Bei's strongest state. Boy, let me show you my true strength. Drink. With a loud shout, Liu Bei slammed his right foot on the ground, and then like a cannonball, he opened his claws with a blue cold light and grabbed Lingtian. Bite. Lingtian turned sideways and blocked the long sword in front of him. Ziz's long sharp claws gripped the sword's body heavily, causing bursts of sparks to rub off during the fierce confrontation. Immediately afterwards, Liu Bei's feet were not idle, and his right foot, surrounded by milky white light, launched a fierce attack on Lingtian's lower body. Extremely cold ice armor. A layer of armor made of ice and snow suddenly appeared on Lingtian, blocking all Liu Bei's attacks. So hard, Liu Bei felt as if his attack was kicked on an iron plate. Instead of hurting Lingtian, it caused him unbearable pain. Come again. Just when Liu Bei was about to distance himself and attack again, Lingtian flipped his wrist, and the Bingji Frost sword rotated internally. While pushing aside Liu Bei's sharp claws, it stabbed towards the heart that was wide open for defense. Bite. The long sword was blocked by the milky white light shield. You want to break my protective barrier with this attack? A sneer flashed at the corner of Liu Bei's mouth, and then he kicked out and opened the distance, easily resolving the crisis. Break. Seeing this scene, Lingtian's eyes didn't show any emotion, and he just spat out one word from his mouth indifferently. Chapter 34. Do you think I dare not kill you? Capital. At the same time, he raised the long sword in his hand high, and then the first blue soul ring lit up, and with a sound of brush, the sharp sword wave struck Liu Bei. Click. What? Liu Bei, who had planned to attack again, was stunned immediately afterwards. The sharp sword wave rushed straight into his chest, slicing through his clothes and leaving sword wounds of varying depths. At the same time, the force knocked his entire body upside down. Boom. The powerful impact caused Liu Bei to fly directly across the street, flying dozens of meters away, and then fell heavily to the ground. Mistress Zhao Wu, who was watching the show on the side, covered her mouth with her hands, a look of disbelief written on her face. And Tang San's eyes were also full of shock at this moment. Both of them are soul masters. Moreover, Liu Bei's soul power is several levels higher. Even if he is not Lingtian's opponent, he still won't be hacked away by a sword, right? Liu Bei got up from the ground in a state of embarrassment. At this moment, his upper body and chest were covered with large and small sword wounds. The blood stained the entire chest blood red, and the white hair was also dyed blood red. There is absolutely no arrogance like before. Ouch. Liu Bei looked at himself in a state of embarrassment and let out an angry tiger roar. Although these injuries were all superficial injuries, they were unbearable for Liu Bei, who always cared about face. Boy, you've completely pissed me off. He took off the cloth strips on his body and stared at Lingtian with red and angry eyes. At this moment, his reason has been driven away by anger. No matter what the cost, he will kill the guy who made him so embarrassed. The next moment, his blood and soul surged. A pair of tiger palms were one circle larger, and the sharp blades that popped out from them turned bright silver. The most peculiar thing was that his whole body was covered in a strong golden light, as if he was gilded. Immediately afterwards, Bei jumped up from the spot and sprinted towards Lingtian at twice the speed before. His blood red eyes revealed a bloodthirsty light, and his whole body carried the domineering aura of a king among beasts. His movements were very simple, nothing fancy. With the soul power attached, the momentum of this blow instantly reached its peak due to the force and speed. Cut. Facing Bei's hungry tiger, Lingtian said lightly, and at the same time, the Bingji frost sword slashed out a sword light. The next moment, the sword light directly struck Bei's tiger palm. Immediately, the silver white sharp claws on Bei's tiger palm were cut off directly with a sound, and the cut was as smooth as a mirror. Ah! Bei couldn't help but scream. A deep pain swept through his heart. He looked at his palm in fear. After the martial spirit possessed him, the extremely hard sharp blade on the tiger's palm broke. Those were the sharp claws that came with the spirit's possession, and they were cut off by him so easily. Bang! Before he could react, a faint voice came from his ears. The third soul skill, Ice Sword Flash. Lingtian teleported to his side and then kicked him hard on the waist. With a muffled bang, Bei's body instantly flew to the right uncontrollably. The first soul skill, Ice Blade. At the same time, Lingtian had no intention of stopping. He raised his hand and struck Bei with another tyrannical sword wave. Boom. The latter had no chance to react and was directly hit by the sword wave and rolled to the ground. Bang bang. Bei fell heavily to the ground and gravel and smoke covered his figure. Tang San, who originally wanted to take the opportunity to save people, never thought that Bei, whom he once admired in the flash of lightning, would already be defeated, and his life or death was uncertain, and he didn't even have a chance to save people. At the same time, Lingtian was already holding a sword in one hand and walking towards the place where Bei fell. After a while, the smoke dispersed. Everyone present finally saw clearly the scene inside. At this moment, Bei had been beaten out of the state of being possessed by the martial spirit. His upper body was bloody, and there was also a long and narrow sword wound. As for the clothes on his body, only a pair of shorts that were almost worn out covered his lower body at the moment. And the tip of Lingtian's Bingji and Shang sword was pointed directly at his heart. Lingtian, very good. I, Bei, have recorded this grudge. Just wait, one day I will wash away this injustice. Bei looked at Lingtian and shouted sternly. Bei stared at Lingtian with malicious eyes. Although he was defeated, he didn't look like a loser at all. He never seemed to think that anyone dared to kill him. Poof. Lingtian did not answer him, but instead stabbed the tip of the sword downward into his lower abdomen. The pain filled Bei's brain for a moment, causing him to scream in pain. Lingtian pulled out his sword and said in a cold tone, "How dare you bully her? Oh, why do you still want to kill me? Others are afraid of your Kibeo glazed sect, but I'm not afraid." But despite this, the weak and embarrassed Bei still said confidently, "Do you know my identity? So what if I bully you? You are a little disciple of the Kibeo glazed sect, but you don't dare to touch me because of your courage. So what if you are better than me? What about the disciples of Kibeo glazed sect? I'm the prince of the Star Luo Empire. If you dare to kill me, the Seven Treasures glazed sect will not be able to protect you." This is a reason why he is still confident, even if he is knocked to the ground. His status as the prince of the Star Luo Empire has made him feel superior to others since he was a child, and he does not take anyone seriously. "You said you are not afraid of the Kibeo glazed sect. Why are you?" Lingtian suddenly reached out and strangled his neck, lifting him up from the ground. Bang. Then, without waiting for Bei to reply, he punched him in the stomach. Hisses. "For your identity." Lingtian's 5 fingers slowly contracted, and he looked at Bei, who was gradually turning pale and having difficulty breathing. At the same time, he continued with a cold voice, "You are a down and out prince who abandoned his fiancée and fled in panic. Why are you not afraid of the Kibeo glazed sect? Why do you dare to threaten a little princess who is doted on by the entire sect? Is it because of the Star Luo Empire behind you? But why do you think that the Star Luo Empire would fight against a dual Douluo sect and the Seven Treasures glazed sect with an auxiliary soul saint for you, an abandoned prince? Is your identity comparable to that of senior sister Angrang? Now you still think that I dare not kill you. Bang. As soon as he finished speaking, Lingtian suddenly let go and threw it out like rags. Immediately after, Lingtian's figure flashed. The Ice G-Frost sword hung above Damu Bei's heart, and at the same time a powerful soul power burst out. There was no doubt that, as long as this sword was struck, Damu Bei's heart would be instantly destroyed. Penetrate. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35, leaving you with a lesson. Who are you? Who are you and how do you know my identity? I am the prince. Prince, you can't kill me. I can't die. Under the double threat of Lingtian's words and actions, Damu Bei finally panicked at this moment. He wants to live. He doesn't want to die. Otherwise, why would he flee to the Star Dao Empire when he could have stayed in the Star Luo Empire? He covered the blood-red fingerprints on his neck with one hand, and at the same time shouted in panic, I didn't want to fight Ning Rangrong. I just wanted to teach her a lesson. Don't kill me. I'm the prince. If you kill me, you will provoke a war between the two countries. My father will not let you go. When the time comes, you will die too. So you can't kill me. You can't kill me. He tried to threaten Lingtian with his identity point, but Lingtian didn't care about his identity point. He is not someone Damu Bei can compare with. He is the younger brother of the crown prince of the Qian Dou Empire, Qian Renxue, and the only disciple of Sword Douluo of the Seven Treasures Glazed sect. With these two identities, what can he do? If he kills Damu Bei, he was not the only prince in the Star Luo Empire. As for provoking a war, you think that Wuhan Palace is just a breadwinner? With him suppressing the Star Luo Empire, how can he easily launch an attack, let alone for a prince who has basically been given up and is destined to fail? Oh, but now is not the time to kill him. Lingtian turned his head and put away the murderous intention in his body and said in as calm a tone as possible, Senior Sister Rangrong, come here. Ling, junior brother Lingtian. Ning Rangrong, who witnessed the whole process from the side, was a little frightened when she saw Damu Bei covered in blood and in a miserable state. She pursed her lips, her fingers trembled slightly, and she pinched her skirt tightly. But in the end, he trotted to Lingtian's side because Ning Rangrong knew that junior brother Lingtian taught Damu Bei a lesson because of her, and went out for her. Then Lingtian retracted his sword a little, looked down at Damu Bei with cold eyes, apologized to her. Damu Bei's blood-red eyes stared intently at Ning Rangrong. Ning Rangrong, who was already scared, was so frightened that she took a step back and hid behind Lingtian. Bang. Lingtian kicked Damu Bei in the chest, strangled his throat with the Bing Ji Frost sword, and said in a cold tone without any warmth, if you want to die, I can help you. To dare to do this in front of him, Damu Bei was so arrogant that he couldn't understand the situation. I'll give you 3 numbers. Apologize. 3, 2. Lingtian didn't give Damu Bei any time to think and immediately started counting down. Don't kill me. I apologize. Apologize. Damu Bei looked at the long sword being raised high again. His heart trembled and he quickly suppressed his resentment in his heart. He looked at Ning Rangrong, who didn't dare to make any more mistakes. Ning Rangrong, I was wrong. I will never dare to provoke you again. At this moment, Damu Bei lowered his proud head, his eyes filled with resentment and anger, and he gritted his teeth. At this moment, Damu Bei was so angry that he was about to collapse. As the prince of the Star Luo Empire, he has always been filled with a sense of superiority. Now that he is being humiliated like this, and even apologizing to you little girl, he uses his last bit of reason to stay awake. He knows that he cannot die. He has to return to the Star Luo Empire and compete with Davis for that position, because only by surviving can he have the opportunity to take revenge on the person who bullied him in the future. Junior brother Lingtian, let him go. Ning Rangrong couldn't bear it and turned away. I wasn't hurt at all, and I don't want to see you kill anyone, even Though Ning Rangrang said something powerful, in reality it was just words. She didn't dare to actually kill anyone. As the little princess of the Kibeo glazed sect, although her character is arrogant and perverse, she is not bad in nature. Now that she sees the extremely miserable Daimyo Bei, she immediately softens her heart and her previous anger has long since dissipated. And subconsciously, she didn't want to see junior brother Lingtian killing people in the street. Besides, she wasn't injured this time, so she just wanted to teach Daimyo Bei a lesson. Sister, don't worry, I won't kill him. Then, Lingtian turned around, changed the topic, and said in a cold tone, but I want to teach him a lesson. The little princess of the Kibeo glazed sect is not someone who can make up his mind. While speaking, Lingtian glanced at Oscar originally. He quite liked the official couple of Oscar and Ning Rangrang. But now that I have not experienced those adventures, Oscar is more interested in Ning Rangrang because of lust, rather than the oath of love and mutual affection in the later stages of the plot. Especially Oscar's behavior of watching the show next to him made Lingtian feel disgusted. Oscar, who was glanced at from the side, shrank his neck and acted like a turtle. No matter how good a beauty is, she still has a life to chase after her. Moreover, even their strongest boss, Day, is no match for him. He is a small food type soul master who dare not touch others' brows. If he is beaten up, he will really have no way to complain. Thinking of this, he took a few steps back. As for Tang San, from the beginning to the end, he had no intention of taking action. The reason is very simple. The relationship is not in place. He had only known Daimyo Bei for a few days, so there was no need to offend Lingtian in order to save him. Besides, he didn't think what Lingtian did was wrong. In his opinion, Daimyo Bei's current fate was all his own fault. If he hadn't just taken out his anger on Ning Rangrang, he wouldn't have been punished by the furious Lingtian. Treat it like this anyway. Tang San couldn't do such a thing to take out his anger on a little girl. As for Xiao Wu, if Tang San hadn't stopped her just now, she would have gone up to help Ning Rangrang. Besides, because of the twins incident, Xiao Wu has always had a grudge against Daimyo Bei. Now that it's too late to be happy when he sees him exposed, how can he go to rescue him? Xiao Wu suddenly leaned close to Tang San's ear and whispered, "Third brother, what would you do if I was bullied by others? As long as I'm alive, I won't let anyone bully you." Tang San's eyes flashed with a gleam of light, and he said firmly, "Why are third brothers so serious? You are just joking." Xiao Wu's heart warmed, and her rosy face leaned against Tang San's shoulder. "I'm serious, Xiao Wu is Tang San's island point. If anyone dares to touch Xiao Wu, the end will not be much better than that of Daimyo Bei." Ice blade. At the same time, Lingtian raised the Bingji frost sword above his head. The cold ice and snow continued to fall on the long sword. As the power continued to accumulate, the sword body was already covered with ice blue ice. Cut. The terrifying power pierced the air and struck hard towards Daimyo Bei's position. Boom. There was a loud noise. Click. Click. Chapter 36 Senior SISTER and -039. Street. The miserable scream stopped abruptly. It was not Daimyo's faint past, but because he was blocked and couldn't make a little sound. At the same time, there are countless cracks on the ground, and Daimyo Bei has been covered by ice at this moment, leaving a deep scar in the center of its chest. However, because of the blockade of the ice, the wound has no blood exudation for the time being. Lingtian's sword turned his head and looked at Ning Rangrang. "Sister Rangrang, let's go." "Oh. Master, wait for me." Ning Rangrang stunned for a while and quickly caught up towards Lingtian's back, leaving only a mess and Daimyo Bei who was frozen in place. Boss, when the two walked away, the Oscar hiding behind finally poked out, watching Daimyo Bei, who had been frozen in place, was conscious as if he picked him out. At this moment, Tang San suddenly said, "Xiao, I advise you better not to use it." "So, why?" Oscar looked at Tang 3 puzzledly. Tang San took 2 steps into steps and said calmly, "The sword wound was very deep just now. If he broke the ice, Daimyo Bei may die too much. If he is strong, then what do we do now? We can't leave the boss Day here." Oscar couldn't get his mind and cast the help of the help. "Go to the dean. You should know that the dean is here now, and there should be a way for the dean's strength." I watched Mu Bei with Xiao Wu here to avoid accidents. Okay, I'll go now. Oscar nodded and rushed to a few hooks they often went, hoping to find friend. The atmosphere was dignified for a while. As soon as a picture turns, the other side of Soto City. Brother, will you not kill the sword just now? Ning. Rangrang pulled Lingtian's sleeves, and his smart eyes were full of anxiety. Lingtian's tone said calmly, rest assured, he won't have anything to do. At most it is lying on the bed for a week. His sword has received a little force, and in addition, he will not be in danger of life. Huh. That's good. As soon as Ning Rangrang heard this, he finally raised his chest. By the way, Brother Lingtian, why do you come to Soto? Ning Rangrang suddenly thought of something. An embarrassing look flashed in his eyes, and said, no, wouldn't it be that your father let you come? Uncle, Ning asked me to come. When Lingtian was about to repeat Ning Feng's words, Ning Rangrang suddenly interrupted. Master Lingtian, are you the first time you came to Soto? Well, Lingtian nodded. Ning Rangrang pulled Lingtian's arm and said mysteriously, go, sister takes you to an interesting place. Wait a minute, let me. What? Do you have to wait and say? Speaking of what, Lingtian said something. Ning Rangrang pulled his arm excitedly and ran towards the night market. A few minutes later, before the night market, looking at the brightly lit booth, Ning Rangrang filmed the flat chest and said with a big hand, Master Lingtian, what do you want to eat today? Sister, please, sister, is going to buy me with these things? Lingtian glanced at Ning Rangrang and said calmly. Ning Rangrang sighed his head guilty, and his white fingers drew a circle in front of his chest and whispered, what is buying? What is going to talk about? How can you buy a sister and brother? Hee ha. Then you eat or not? Eat, of course. I went there to buy me 2 rock sugar goods, as well as sugar fried chestnuts, walnut crisps, and Ning Rangrang stared at Lingtian. Master Lingtian, what's wrong? Lingtian asked in doubt. When I thought of myself for a while, I had to ask for Lingtian, and Ning Rangrang suddenly changed his face and asked with a mild tone, no, nothing. What else do you want to eat? For the time being, let's talk about it after eating. Okay, it's this temporarily. Before Ning Rangrang turned around, he glared at Lingtian angrily. Secretly in your heart. Okay, Lingtian, I remember this sister. Don't let this sister find the opportunity, otherwise you must even be profitable. Come back. After a while, Ning Rangrang asked softly, Brother Lingtian, have you eaten? Hey. Lingtian put down the walnut crispy in his hand, wiped his mouth and asked calmly, say something straight. Ning Rangrang's eyes turned and whispered to discuss. Hee. Brother Lingtian, sister was very good to you in Zongmen, so you can be later. Sister, do you still don't want to return? Before Ning Rangrang finished speaking, Lingtian had guessed her purpose. I know I can't hide my brother. Ning Rangrang grabbed Lingtian's arm with a smile, blinked his bright eyes, and the poorly spoiled, let's go back to Zongmen later. Let me play at Streck College for a while. Okay, and just now, sister, in order to buy you, but ran a whole street. Why? Lingtian sighed helplessly, looked at the walnut crisp in his hand, and knew the purpose of Ning Rangrang, but he still did not resist the temptation of food. Sister, do you think clearly? After swallowing the last piece of walnut crisps, Lingtian patted the debris on his hand and asked carefully, I just gave the Damu Bei a serious injury. Do you down? Damu Bei's guy hit it, and it was not a big deal. Besides, he wanted to do it to me first. Miss Ben didn't go to them. Ning Rangrang said with her waist and said, and Miss Ben wants to stay wherever you want, as long as I don't leave. No one can. Flander can't. After finally playing, she didn't return to Zongmen before playing enough, and there has been no disturbing her. And Lingtian brother here, when is the sister who is going back to Zongmen? 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Ning Rangrang held his fingers and said uncertainly. Lingtian patted Ning Rangrang's little hand and said helplessly, the latest 3 months. Then you must return to the gate with me, or explain to Uncle Ning in person. Chapter 37. Teacher, I found you. 3 months. That's okay. I'll leave it to junior brother Lingtian for the next 3 months. Ning Rangrang's face was filled with joy. A cunning look flashed in her eyes, and she held Lingtian's arm and leaned on his shoulder. What do you mean please me? Lingtian said with black lines on his head. Do you still want me to stay here with you for 3 months? 3 months? Stay here? Of course. Ning Rangrang blinked and looked at Lingtian pitifully. Does junior brother Lingtian want to leave me here alone? You have also seen what happened today. An auxiliary soul master is very dangerous. Junior brother Lingtian in the end. Lingtian nodded helplessly and agreed to Ning Rangrang's request. Her fearless temperament was indeed very dangerous. Ning Rangrang hugged Lingtian's arm, turned her head and asked doubtfully, Junior brother, what are we doing now? Do you want to sleep on the street? Lingtian pushed Ning Rangrang's head away with a look of disgust and said in a helpless tone, of course I don't want to. If you don't want to, why don't you leave quickly? After a while, Ning Rangrang stood in front of the room coquettishly, pinching the hem of her skirt and saying with a flushed face, Junior brother Lingtian, are we going too fast? We are still too young now. Although she liked junior brother Lingtian very much, Ning Rangrang was not mentally prepared for that step. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Hurry up and go to bed. Lingtian looked at Ning Rangrang with a puzzled expression. Huh? Junior brother Lingtian, don't you want to? Ning Rangrang's face turned red, as if she was about to bleed. She knew that her thoughts were wrong, and she wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl in. I understand. You should go back and rest quickly. Bang. As she spoke, Ning Rangrang was like a frightened little rabbit. She opened and closed the door in one go, and was back in the house before Lingtian could react. Baffling Lingtian looked at the shaking door in confusion, but still told him, I'm in the room next to you. If you have any questions, just call me. Okay, night. Good night. Well, good night. At the same time, inside the room Ning Rangrang, who had buried herself under the quilt, finally raised her head, with a shy blush on her cheeks. When she thought of what she just said, Ning Rangrang's face turned a little redder. However, it was inevitable to complain about Lingtian. What a piece of wood. Ning Rangrang stamped her feet angrily. What he said just now was so obvious, but junior brother Lingtian didn't understand a word of it. He's an idiot. A moment later, late at night. Lingtian did not return to his room, but walked out of the dew point again. Teacher, why don't you come out yet? There was silence all around. No one appeared. However, Lingtian still said calmly, Teacher, if you don't come out, I will really go back. With that said, Lingtian turned around and returned to the hotel. Little slippery head. You kid, how did you find out about being a teacher? Just as he was about to turn around, a familiar voice came to Lingtian's ears, and at the same time Chen Xin, dressed in white, appeared in front of Lingtian. Lingtian cupped his hands and said, Teacher, how did you discover the traces of your master? Sword Douluo looked at Lingtian with some curiosity. He was a titled Douluo. Even if he showed some aura, the Soul Lord would not be able to detect it, because I feel the 7 kills sword intent. Lingtian had been training under Sword Douluo's 7 kills sword for a long time, and he naturally became very familiar with the 7 kills sword's intention. When senior sister Rangrang was pushed out by that guy, I felt your sword intent. Lingtian spread his hands. A smile flashed in his cold eyes. I see. Chen Xin suddenly understood, and immediately understood the reason. Lingtian remembered what he had promised Ning Rangrang just now, and said calmly, Teacher, senior sister Rangrang wants to continue to stay at Shrek Academy. Does she still want to stay here? Chen Xin frowned slightly, her expression obviously becoming unhappy. Lingtian nodded, then suddenly changed the topic, and asked another question. Teacher, what do you think of Shrek Academy? In terms of teachers, it can be regarded as a rare high-level Soul Master Academy in the Qian Dou Empire, but in terms of other auxiliary facilities, it is insufficient. The combination of the two can only be regarded as a middle-level academy, but its help to talented students is limited. Sword Douluo made an objective evaluation. Follow the path. Along the way, he also basically understood the situation of Shrek Academy. It was an ordinary academy, but the requirements for recruiting students were more stringent than those of Qian Dou Royal Academy. Point entry criteria: no more than 12 years old, and the soul power must reach level 20 or above, and there are 4 subsequent assessments. With these alone, it is difficult to achieve without innate soul power of level 7 or above. Such layers of screening the students who come out are originally unique talents. No matter which college they join, they will be trained intensively. In other words, even if they don't join Shrek, their future achievements will not be affected. And Shrek Academy even delayed the talents of these students, because apart from the fact that their teacher's soul power level is higher than that of ordinary high-level soul master colleges, other aspects such as teaching environment, resources, facilities, venues, etc. are inferior to those of a regular high-level soul master college. The hardware facilities are completely substandard, and the students of the college will naturally be affected. If those students who joined Shrek Academy in the previous batches had joined Qian Dou Royal Academy, their soul power would definitely have reached a high level. In other words, they are using the guise of recruiting monsters to attract elite genius soul masters who have no understanding of the Soul Master Academy. That's why Chenzin felt that Shrek Academy's growth for senior soul masters was limited. The teacher is right, but before the soul sect, the education method of this college was still remarkable, so it doesn't hurt to let senior sister Rangrang stay here for 3 months. Lingtian finally brought the topic back to the original purpose, to get Sword Douluo to agree to let Ning Rangrang stay in Shrek Academy for 3 months. I had promised senior sister Rangrang before that I will give her another 3 months. 3 months. In 3 months, I will take senior sister back to the sect, Lingtian said in a serious tone. Teacher, don't worry, with me here, senior sister Rangrang will not be in danger. Since he promised Ning Rangrang 3 months, he must fulfill his agreement. Chapter 38 Haoshan Douluo. Forget it, with you and Rangrang, that girl shouldn't be wronged. Chenzin was silent for a moment, thinking of Ning Feng's previous instructions. He finally agreed. But he felt that he should meet Flanders. Lingtian and Rangrang, the 2 juniors he cared about the most, were going to stay at Shrek Academy for a while, so he naturally wanted to have a cordial exchange with the dean of the academy. Coupled with what happened before Rangrang, it's just a good time to have a good chat. After a while, Chenzin, who was just about to set out to have a cordial exchange with Flanders, suddenly thought of something. He turned his head and asked in a deep voice, Xiaoshan, how many levels are you away from the soul sect now? Now, it's level 35, and there are still 5 levels left. Sword Douluo calculated in his mind for a moment, and then said with a mysterious smile, there are still 5 levels left. When Xiaoshan breaks through, don't be in a hurry to absorb the soul ring. Master will prepare a surprise for you. Lingtian hesitated for a moment and asked softly, Teacher, have you seen it? You are talking about that 100,000-year soul beast, right? Chenzin immediately heard Lingtian's allusion and directly pointed out the meaning of his words. Lingtian nodded and asked softly, the surprise you mentioned before is not referring to the 100,000-year soul beast, right? Yes, it seems that Xiaoshan is tempted. A smile appeared on the corner of Sword Douluo's mouth. No, Lingtian shook his head and said in a calm tone, Teacher, I just don't want you to take action against that 100,000-year-old soul beast. Why? Xiaoshan is not interested in a 100,000-year soul ring. Chenzin asked with a slight smile as a glint of interest flashed in his eyes. Teacher, have you noticed the boy next to the soul beast before? What's the problem with that boy? Lingtian said softly, his surname is Tang. Tang Heo's Tang. If I guess correctly, he should be Tang Heo's son. Tang Heo, you said that child is Tang Heo's son? Sword Douluo looked at Lingtian in surprise. He didn't expect that Shrek Academy was really Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, 100,000-year soul beast, crossing Luo. The Prince of the Empire, the second lady of the Netherworld Duke's Palace, plus Tang Heo's son. Chenzin did not doubt the authenticity of Lingtian's words, because he did not ask about the source of the news. Everyone has their own secrets. Since Lingtian didn't want to say it yet, he himself would not press Lingtian point G. This college is not simple, yes, and the relationship between that 100,000-year soul beast and Tang Heo's son should not be simple. Lingtian showed his 3 distinctive soul rings and said seriously, you also know the situation of my soul rings. 100,000-year soul ring is not important to me, so I don't want you to risk offending a titled person. Douluo's risk is to take action against that soul beast. The 100,000-year spirit ring was of limited help to Lingtian, and although he had no feelings for Tang San, he didn't want to inexplicably add enemies to himself. I see. Xiaoshan, please go back first. This matter will be properly handled by the Master Council. Shenzhen suddenly understood something, and he squinted his eyes and looked at the jungle not far away. After a while, whoosh, since you've already invited me over, why don't you come out and talk to me? Sort. Douluo's figure appeared in the mountain forest, and at the same time, a vigorous and powerful voice echoed in the deep forest, and the trees were shaken so much that their leaves dropped. Just now he felt an aura that also belonged to a titled Douluo in the dense forest. Junior Tang Heo has met Senior Shenzhen. A moment later, a thick voice came from the mountain forest, and then a middle-aged man, covered in black robes, walked out slowly. Looking at the slovenly Tang Heo, Shenzhen couldn't help but frown. Are you Tang Heo? Why do you look like this? Wuhan Palace, yeah. Tang Heo nodded numbly, sort. Douluo was speechless for a moment, not knowing what to say. He never thought that the youngest titled Douluo in the mainland, who was so popular back then, would turn into this slovenly appearance now. Senior Shenzhen, this junior wants to do something about the child. As both the titled Douluo, Tang Heo still respected Shenzhen very much. After all, he was far inferior to Shenzhen in terms of strength and age. Does your child know that it is a spirit beast? I don't know. After a while, Tang Heo cupped his hands to Shenzhen and expressed his gratitude. Thank you, Senior Shenzhen. Everyone takes what he needs. Sort. Douluo put away the Haoshan sect token that Tang Heo had just used to exchange, and said in a deep voice, since Haoshan Douluo is here, I also entrust the safety of my 2 children. Senior Shenzhen, don't worry, Haoshan. Douluo cupped his hands and bid farewell to Sword Douluo. At the same time, inside Shrek Academy. After Flender took care of Damu Bei's injury, he walked out of the room and asked Tangson and Oscar with a gloomy expression, how did Mu Bei get injured? Dean, after you and Mahanjan separated from us, Mu Bei had a little quarrel with Ning Rangrang. Just when Mu Bei was about to attack Ning Rangrang, there was a scene at the Soto Spirit fighting field. A young man who was called the Sword King suddenly took action, and according to Ning Rangrang, that young man was a disciple of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect. Tang San's thinking was clear, and he quickly gave an overview of the main reasons for what happened. Flender rubbed his head and said in a low tone, okay, Mistress Oscar, you go back and rest first. Yes, Dean. The 2 responded in unison, and then turned around and returned to their dormitories. 7 Treasures Glazed sect. A trace of fear and powerlessness flashed across Flanders' eyes. The 7 Treasures Glazed sect was a giant that no one like him could shake. In addition, it was Damu Bei who took the initiative to provoke him, so he was destined to receive this beating in vain. Hey, Damu Bei, you know how to find trouble for me every day. With a distressed look on his face, Flanders took out his small treasury and calculated how much money he would need to spend to restore Damu Bei to his former self. Flanders, come out. A vigorous and powerful voice suddenly and accurately reached Flanders' ears, which reminded him of Haoshan Douluo's previous experience and made him look nervous. Who is it? With doubts in his mind, Flanders set out cautiously. After a while, outside Shrek Academy, in the dark woods, it was the place where Tang Heo beat Zhao Wuji violently. Excuse me, are you Clang? Before Flanders could finish speaking, a killing sword suddenly appeared in front of the man, followed by 9 soul rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 5 black, blooming from the sword body in sequence, exuding powerful pressure. This is the 7 killing sword. Flanders' heart trembled, and he quickly saluted and said, I've seen you before, Your Majesty. Sword Douluo. Huh. Shenzhen didn't say anything. He just snorted coldly and locked the pressure on Flanders. Chapter 39 Qian Renxue and -039. S warning. Sword Douluo. I don't know what you are expensive in Shrek College. Feeling the coercion of Tian Dou, Fran's body was slightly cold and sweaty. Tian Dou's cold eyes looked at Fran. Your Shrek College treats Renxue like this. The meaning of the coronation. Why can't I understand? Can't understand. I have always followed the meaning of the Lord of Gizm. If you feel uncomfortable because of these things, please forgive me. Flander cried secretly in his heart, biting his teeth from the ring to the rings, the letter to the wind, Sodder, Dao Soulfield. That's an accident. Flander's heart sank, and it really mentioned this. At that time, I had something else to deal with it, so it was not by their side. Otherwise this kind of thing will never happen. Can you cover it in a sentence? The Sword Douluo's eyes showed a touch of cold and sharp. If my apprentice was not there at that time, what would happen to Dean Frand? This, Fran said for a while. What can he say? For so many years, Daemubei's temperament is still unclear. This kid has always been strong in doing things. It is not impossible for Ning Renxue to take a shot to Ning Renxue without a chance to justify Frand. Tian Dou continued to say coldly, as the dean of the college. He doesn't care about the safety of the students. This is the way your Shrek College educates students, Dean. Friend, the old man needs a reasonable explanation. This thing is something I did right. Friend sighed lightly and then bowed deeply on the position of Tian Dou. On behalf of Shrek College, I apologize to Tian Dou and Gizing. Disappointed the expectations of the Lord Ning and the Mao. He understood the intention of Tian Dou. For Ning Renxue, he asked for, and this matter is indeed wrong with their Shrek College. So as the dean of the college, he must make a statement. Sword Douluo groaned for a while. Shen Sheng said, Renxue and Lingtian will stay at your Shrek College for about 3 months. I hope you will not let me down this time. Thank you. The trust under the crown. Flander just wanted to say something and was suddenly knocked down by a sword. Then he heard the voice of Tian Dou. I hope you can really do it. Cough. Thank you for mercy. Frand wiped off the blood on the corner of his mouth and said bitter tone. The Sword Douluo sword is really merciless. If he really cut a sword with his strength, he had to lie on the bed for half a month. Although Sen gave him a sword, although it looked scary, it was actually just a skin trauma, and he could recover as early as a day or two. The next day, early morning. Shrek College. In the square. The 5 students of Tangsan, Xiao, Oscar, Mahongjin, Zhu Zuking have gathered together to wait for Fran's arrival. And Daemubei is still lying on the bed and can't move. It is estimated that it has to be cultivated for a week. What? Yesterday, Mahongjin, who had just returned in the morning, was shocked. Boss Day was injured. You, little Oscar, was not so angry. That Mahongjin glanced at Mahongjin and continued to whisper when he saw that no teacher came over. You don't know how ruthless the guy was. Kibaoliu Lizong last night. You don't know how strong Boss Day is, right? But even so, that guy beat Boss Day so hard that he couldn't fight back. You don't know the specific situation yesterday. That guy beat Boss Day with just one sword. Get down. Oscar's face turned red as he spoke, and he also gestured as if he was the one who defeated Daemubei with that sword. Daemubei was injured, although Zhu Zuking was some distance away from the two of them. The square was only such a big place, and with her martial arts bonus, she was still able to hear their conversation. That guy was actually injured. At this moment, Zhu Zuking was very shocked. Although that guy is usually arrogant and lustful, his strength is not weak. 7. Treasures glazed sect, purple gold soul fighting metal. With Oscar's explanation, Zhu Zuking gradually understood the basic process of the matter, and at the same time he also understood that the person who injured Daemubei and saved him turned out to be the same person. How could it be him? A trace of astonishment flashed across Zhu Zuking's eyes, and he couldn't believe that there could be such a coincidence in the world. So, what happened now? On the other side, Mahongjin waved his fist and said angrily, he injured Boss Day, and just let him go. What else can we do? Boss Day is the strongest among us. Who dares to stop him, even if he is no match? Oscar's face boasted, and he spread his hands with a feeling of helplessness. That's not all. The other side. ZHU Zuking walked to Xiao Wu and asked softly, Xiao Wu, are what Oscar and the others said true? Well, Dame Yubei was indeed defeated by that guy. Xiao Wu nodded. No, it's not. ZHU Zuking waved his hand and looked at Xiao Wu eagerly. I want to ask, is the person who made the move really the same person who held the purple gold medal in the soul fighting arena last night? Yes. Zuking, why are you quiet? A coercive voice came out, and then Flanders appeared in front of everyone with a gloomy face. House Dean, like a conditioned reflex. Oscar and Mahanjan quickly stopped chatting and stood there politely waiting for Flanders to lecture point at the same time. Xiao Wu and ZHU Zuking on the side also stopped talking after Tangson reminded them, this is the end of what happened yesterday. We are not allowed to mention it again in the academy. Flanders glanced at everyone and said in a cold tone, yes. Everyone replied in unison. Also, Oscar, Tangsan, and Mahanjan, you guys will go and clean up the nearby dormitories before going to training. A new classmate may move in a few days. Oscar was stunned for a moment. New classmate. Oscar, what's the problem? Flanders asked with a glance. No, alright. Flender rubbed his aching left shoulder and immediately began to arrange today's training tasks. Let's start the training. Oscar will lead the team to run around the village for an hour. Yes. Everyone responded in unison. Immediately, Oscar led the team, and several people started morning training one after another. When it was Xiao Wu's turn, she remembered Ning Rangrang curiously asking, Dean, is Rangrang coming back? Return. Chapter 40. The person who saved me that day was you. Capital. Are there any questions? If not, just go to training. No. Xiao Wu made a face at Flanders' back, then quickly pulled ZHU Zuking and ran forward. Hey, I hope there won't be any more conflicts after that kid comes to the academy. Flanders sighed, narrowed his eyes, and murmured in a low voice. Soto City. Shenzhen told the two of them in a gentle tone. Xiaoshan, you have a steady temper. Rangrang will leave it to you. Teacher, don't worry. Lingtian nodded. Shenzhen turned her head and continued to tell Ning Rangrang, everything must be obeyed by Lingtian here. If you let me know about any accidents again, don't blame Grandpa. I will take you back to the sect directly. Yeah, I know. Ning Rangrang nodded, looking helplessly at Shenzhen with her beautiful eyes and complained. Grandpa Jian, you have told me these words several times. Okay. Grandpa is gone. Shenzhen smiled helplessly, then turned around and walked away with his sword, disappearing from the sight of the two of them after a while. Junior. Brother Lingtian, why is Grandpa Jian here? As soon as Shenzhen left, Ning Rangrang's face suddenly fell, and she pouted and said with unhappy eyes, the teacher is always following us. Ning Rangrang screamed in surprise, covering her red cheeks, and said, then what happened yesterday? Wasn't it possible that Grandpa Jian saw everything? It's so embarrassing. Thinking of the embarrassing scene at the hotel door last night, the little girl blushed and was speechless. However, Lingtian and Ning Rangrang were obviously not focusing on the same thing. Thinking back to Shenzhen's actions last night, he speculated in his heart, if I guessed correctly, the teacher should have gone to Shrek Academy last night. After all, Tang Heo had beaten up Xiao Wuji for Tangson that night. Now that Ning Rangrang is being treated unfairly at Shrek, with Sword Douluo doting on Ning Rangrang, he probably has to go and have a good exchange with Flender. Lingtian turned his head and said, senior sister, go back to Shrek Academy. Sword Douluo has already discussed it with Flanders, so when they go to Shrek Academy at this time, they don't have to worry about anyone looking to trouble them. Okay. Ning Rangrang nodded subconsciously, but she was still thinking about what happened last night. At the same time, Oscar, ZHU Zuking, and Mahanjan were jogging around Shrek Academy. Hey, look, Xiao, isn't that Rangrang? Mahanjan happened to see the two people facing the entrance of the college in a blink of an eye. Who is that guy? Xiao, what's wrong with you? Xiao, why didn't you run away all of a sudden? Yes, it's him. He's the guy who injured Boss Day and Xiaozhen. No. He shouldn't have been. Oscar's eyes widened in disbelief at this moment, and he pointed at Lingtian with trembling fingers. That's him, Ma. Hangjin's heart trembled, and he subconsciously shrank his head point. Even though he screamed very fiercely just now, he didn't want to really meet Lingtian, a big boss who even tortured Boss Day and Tang San. He, an ordinary great spirit master, didn't want to go up and get beaten. He did not offend Lingtian. Fatty, why don't we take a detour? Do you want to be beaten? No. Wait, why did he beat me? Mahanjan suddenly came back to his senses and stopped to look at Oscar inexplicably. I didn't offend Ningrangrong, nor did I offend that guy. What's there to hide from? He can't just come up and hit someone, right? Forehead, Ma. Hangjin reacted, grabbed Oscar's neck, and said in a pretentious manner, "You little Oscar, you want to lie to me again? No, fat man, brother Ma, brother Jun, it's wrong to late." Just as Mahanjan and Oscar were fighting, Xiao Wu suddenly walked up to ZHU Zuking, pointed at Lingtian not far away and whispered, "Zuking, look, it's him, it's him." ZHU Zuking was stunned for a moment, then thought of something, and stretched out his right hand, just blocking the upper half of Lingtian's face. Mouth shape, height, clothes, everything is the same. It's him. ZHU Zuking recognized that the person who saved her at that time was Lingtian. She took a deep breath and walked towards Lingtian and Ningrangrang without hesitation. "Hey, Zuking, where are you going? Don't go over there, Zuking, Mr. Day, Oscar." And Mahanjan thought ZHU Zuking was going to avenge Daimyo Bei, and they quickly spoke to stop her action. Ningrangrong, who was about to go find Flanders, turned around and said, "Hey, Zuking, ZHU Zuking? So she is ZHU Zuking." Lingtian turned his head when he heard the sound. His eyes paused, and he quickly recognized that the person was the girl he had rescued some time ago. However, he quickly withdrew his gaze and no longer paid attention to this extraordinary girl, Zuking. At the same time, Ningrangrang rushed up to meet ZHU Zuking. She wanted to chat with ZHU Zuking, but she walked straight towards Lingtian's position. "You were the one who saved me that day, right?" ZHU Zuking nodded slightly to Ningrangrang, and then his cold eyes were locked on Lingtian. Ningrangrang's beautiful eyes kept turning between the two of them. It seemed that her junior brother Lingtian and Zuking had a story. "Ah, you really here to find yourself?" Lingtian looked at the girl in front of him with a headache. If he had known she was ZHU Zuking, he would never have taken action at that time. After all, as a member of the protagonist group, she could have escaped this crisis, even if she had not appeared. "I know your martial spirit, and Oscar said that the person who was in the soul fighting arena yesterday was you." Lingtian was about to refute, but ZHU Zuking blocked her defense with her next words. Lingtian was silent for a few seconds, nodded and asked calmly, "It's me. Is there any problem? Forget it. Just recognize it. If you recognize it." ZHU Zuking's cold face showed a rare smile, and then she continued to ask, "What's your name?" "Lingtian, Kibeo glazed sect." Lingtian said calmly, "Lingtian, my name is ZHU Zuking. Thank you for saving me that day. If I have a chance, I will repay you if I survive." ZHU Zuking wanted to say something, but his eyes dimmed when he thought of his identity. Her future is destined to be dark, and love is just a luxury for her. ZHU Zuking bowed deeply to Lingtian and said with sincere eyes, "Thank you." After saying that, she turned around and left. This was what she had always wanted to say, to ask for his name and then sincerely thank him. Chapter 41. A poor person. Since you hate Daimyo Bei who abandoned you, why do you still come here? Looking at her thin back, Lingtian suddenly said, "Do I have any other choice?" ZHU's clear eyes gradually dimmed, and he continued to slowly leave forward. She knew that coming to Shrek Academy represented a compromise, but besides going to Shrek Academy to seek Daimyo Bei's help, did she have any other choice? "My parents are indifferent and my sister wants to kill me all the time." Although Daimyo Bei is a playboy, because of the cruel rules of the Xingluo royal family, as ZHU Zuking's fiancé, He is the only one he can trust. This is a reason why ZHU Zuking traveled thousands of miles to come to Shrek Academy. If you want to survive, you can only rely on Damu Bei. Except for this nominal fiancé, she has no one to rely on. Lingtian fell into silence. She really had no other choice but to accept Damu Bei. No wonder ZHU Zuking, who was extremely disgusted with Damu Bei at the beginning of the original work, ended up getting together with Damu Bei. After all, it was reality that made ZHU Zuking let go of his pride. Looking at ZHU Zuking's retreating figure, Ning Rangrong, who already understood the general reason, blinked her eyes and asked curiously, "Junior brother, is Zuking in any difficulty?" A poor man bound by his identity. Lingtian shook his head and sighed softly. Ning Rangrong's eyes lit up, and she asked with a gossipy face, "Poor man? Is it because of Damu Bei?" ZHU Zuking is the second young lady of the ZHU family of the Star Luo Empire. She has been engaged to Damu Bei since she was a child. Lingtian changed the subject and said with a trace of ridicule in his eyes, "But because Damu Bei could not withstand the pressure of fighting for the throne within the Star Luo Empire, he chose to flee and left ZHU Zuking alone in the Star Luo Empire." Damu Bei is still not a man, Ning Rangrong said with her mouth wide open and her eyes filled with contempt. Lingtian sighed and said with emotion, "So ZHU Zuking is a pitiful person. If possible, he actually wanted to help ZHU Zuking. It's a pity that the Star Luo Empire is still a behemoth to him now. He and ZHU Zuking are just acquaintances, and it is impossible to fight against the entire Star Luo Empire for a stranger. HMPH, Damu Bei is such a scumbag. Junior brother, you should have stabbed him a few more times yesterday." Ning Rangrong sympathized with ZHU Zuking's life experience and at the same time expressed her strong dissatisfaction with Damu Bei's actions. Halfway through, Ning Rangrong suddenly turned around and said, "Junior brother, don't you believe it? Believe. Senior sister is right." Lingtian nodded perfunctorily while the two were talking about ZHU Zuking. Xiao Wu, whose eyes were full of surprise, jumped up and down next to Ning Rangrong. "Rangrong, are you back? I didn't believe what the dean said at first. Of course I'm coming back. How could I leave when this place is so interesting?" Ning Rangrong held Xiao Wu's arm affectionately and glanced at Lingtian next to him with a cunning light flashing in his eyes. "Senior Sister Rangrong, oh. Xiao Wu, let's talk tonight. I'll go find the dean with my junior brother first." Ning Rangrong finally remembered the business, reluctantly said goodbye to Xiao Wu, and led Lingtian towards the dean's office of Shrek Academy. A moment later, Shrek Academy office. Lingtian and Ning Rangrong sat opposite a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was about 50 years old, with a strong build. He had a very distinctive face, with a slightly protruding chin, wide cheekbones, a flat face, and a slightly hooked nose. Wearing a pair of black-framed crystal square glasses on his face, he looks very cunning. This person is Flanders, the dean of Shrek Academy. After Ning Rangrong and Lingtian sat down, Flanders asked softly, "I wonder what identities Mr. Lingtian and Rangrong have entered our Shrek Academy this time, senior. Sister Rangrong is still participating in various trainings at your Shrek Academy as before." Lingtian glanced at Ning Rangrong and continued, "As for me, I'm only responsible for protecting the safety of senior Sister Rangrong. I just need to prepare a place for me to live." "Dean, don't be so polite, just call me Lingtian already, and these are considered as temporary accommodation expenses during this period." As he spoke, Lingtian took out a money bag from the phoenix ring and placed it in front of Flanders. How can this be so embarrassing?" Although Flanders said he was embarrassed, he still honestly picked up the thick money bag, his eyes filled with unconcealable joy. Sway. After weighing it a few times and listening to the sound of the coins colliding, the smile on Flanders' face became a little wider. Watching Flanders accept the money bag, Lingtian continued, "Then I will trouble the dean during this time." "No trouble. With Sword Douluo's threat and the help of this bag of gold soul coins, Damu Bei's matter also changed in Flanders' heart. A flash of light flashed across Flanders' eyes, and he asked, pretending to be unintentional, "Brother Lingtian looks young. I wonder if you can tell me your age to satisfy my curiosity." 11. Flanders looked straight at Lingtian, his eyes flashing, and he couldn't help but be a little amazed. 11 years old, a 35th level soul master, purple gold soul fighting medal. No wonder even Sword Douluo's majesty was moved by such a talent. Even Haoshan Douluo is not as good as this child at this age. I'm afraid he won't be able to do it. After 20 years of being the youngest titled Douluo in the mainland, it should change hands again, right? You interested? Hey, Flanders shook his head helplessly. Before he could finish the thought of recruiting, he was completely dismissed by himself. How could a disciple of a titled Douluo be so interested in this small academy of Thiz? Excuse me, Dean Flanders. Lingtian nodded, and then said to Ning Rangrong, senior sister Rangrong, it's time for you to go back to practice. When Ning Rangrong heard that he was going to practice, his face twitched, and he said a little unhappy, junior brother, senior sister, before you came here, you promised me, and the teacher, that you would practice well here. If you are not serious, I will not count on the conditions I promised you. Lingtian did not give Ning Rangrong a chance to defend himself. Directly lay out the conditions that were discussed before. He had promised Chenzin before, and if he wanted to take a good look at Ning Rangrong, he would naturally urge her to practice. Just train. Ning Rangrong pouted in dissatisfaction, gave Lingtian a big roll of her eyes before leaving, and then left Flanders' office with an unhappy look on her face. Lingtian expressed helplessness about this. Why is this senior sister of his always so childish? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 40. To know worse than anyone. Flanders said it was somewhat interesting. Lingtian brothers, there are not many rooms in our college. At present, there are only these idle rooms. You can see, if you are satisfied. But just this one. Lingtian has never had any special requirements for the residents. As long as he can rest, he can cover the wind and rain. At night, girl dormitory. The three people who couldn't sleep were discussing Lingtian. Zhao in the quilt was in his head and asked curiously, how old is your younger brother this year? It seems that it should be almost the same as us. Lingtian, he is 1 year younger this year. 1 year younger than us. Zhao Wu was a little surprised and couldn't help but surprised. 1 year younger than us, but the soul power has reached the soul. How did he cultivate his soul? Training has always been fast. Ning Rangrong squeezed the quilt with grievances and said, when I first met him, my soul power was still 1 level higher than him. Now he was pulled down by him. Just when the two discussed the fierce discussion, a cold voice joined in it. Rangrong, Lingtian him. What kind of person is it? Zhu King Zhao Wu turned his head with a little unexpected look at his eyes. When they chat with them, Zhu King usually keeps silent and has never taken the initiative to join their discussions. Ning Rangrong glanced at Zhu King deeply, saying, although the younger brother Lingtian looks cold, he is actually very cheerful. It is just a cold appearance. I will know that he is actually very interesting. Bolanovo's abnormal move in the morning. Zhao couldn't help but make fun of the ridicule. How do you be so interested in Master Rangrong? Will you like others? No, he saved me a few days ago. Zhu King's voice was calm and cold as usual, but there was a touch of crimson on the face of the two of them. Save you, Zhu King returned to the previous cold and said, I met some dangers on the way to Shrek College before, when I was rescued by Lingtian. It's so simple. No other story happens. Zhao Wu tilted her head, secretly in the bottom of her heart. No. Shouldn't this plot in this plot, shouldn't it be the heroine? I didn't wait for Zhao Wu to continue the gossip. Ning Rangrong suddenly asked, Zhu King, do you really want to marry him? I didn't choose. Zhu King lowered his head, his eyes gradually dimmed, but that guy's a scum. If you Ning Rangrong knew that he was impulsive to say something wrong and quickly apologized to Zhu King. I'm sorry, Zhu King, I don't. I just want. It's okay. Zhu Zhu King shook her head gently. She knew that Ning Rangrang was not intentional. The remarks just now were more sake of herself. Moreover, she said, right, Damu Bei is a scum. Throwing his fiancée alone on the Star Luo Empire, but he sought flowers in Soto City and asked Liu. He changed a woman to live well a day. He didn't worry about how difficult it was for her little girl to live. She really doesn't want to marry him. But the cold rules of the Star Luo Empire can be shaken by her alone. Unless the empire suddenly perish. Haha, there was a bitter smile appeared in the corner of Zhu King's mouth. She was really a little whimsical. How would the Xingluo Empire's tens of thousands of years suddenly destroyed and collapsed? Married to Damu Bei is her destiny, and she can't escape or escape. In the face of the dumb mystery of the two, Xiao Wu expressed a blank face and asked, Zhu King, what do you say? Nothing. Xiao Wu should sleep. Hey, you good night. Xiao Wu was lying on the pillow, looking at Fang Liang with an unreasonable look. Nympho early morning. Yak. Xiao Wu, didn't you sleep last night? Looking at the sleepy eyes, I had no yawn, and with two small dances with heavy dark circles, Tang San couldn't help asking, Xiao Wu nodded weakly, and at the same time, stared at the two people beside him with resentment. Blame them, saying only half of it. It makes people feel itchy all night, and I have been thinking about it at all. Little dance. However, Ning Rangrang and Zhu King, who are the parties, obviously did not know that the culprit's head was herself, but also stole the attention of Care Strack College. On the other side. After a while, a familiar figure also appeared on the side of Lingtian. Fran's discourse stopped, and his expression suddenly became a little weird. The head of Lingtian jaw, the wind and cloudy and light road, the soul power came to the bottleneck before, so just cultivated this morning, and it naturally broke through. Breakthrough, so simple. Then why did Damu Bei not break through the soul sect? Fland could not help but get into thought. Lingtian turned his head and said, Dean Frand, I'm going to go to the soul field. Although he does not like to make people comment on the soul platform, it is undeniable that in addition to the actual combat of the wild, the fighting of the soul fighting platform is the safest and the most effective way to test the strength. So now he has just broken the soul power. The best choice to adapt to combat power is to fight soul. Flanders' eyes flickered, and some tangled and groaned for a while, and said, need me to send a teacher? Do you help in the past? Lingtian's identity is extraordinary, he can't let him be surprised here again. Unnecessary. Lingtian shook his head, and said a faint way. He went to the soul fighting platform, and not the soul beast forest. Ning Rangrang's safety, you can rest assured, Flander is confidently guaranteed. There are me and Xiao Wuji. She will not have any danger. Nympho 3 days later, the Soto Soul Field. The next battle is the highly anticipated Bingji and Sword Emperor. Whether the Sword Emperor can maintain a winning streak all the way to Sing and win the Sapphire Medal, or the sinking sand terminates the winning streak. Let's have the Sword Emperor Bingyan and his opponent, the 41st Soul Sword King Bloodthirsty Sword Xiaoli. The same type of strong attack as the fighting soul. The battle between the emperor and the king. I believe that the two will definitely bring a wonderful soul. Who can win this suspense battle? It's the Sword Emperor Rice or the bloodthirsty Sword King Xiaoli. Chapter 43, Breaking the Mountain Style. Please wait and see. As soon as this voice came out, the entire spirit fighting arena immediately boiled. The host's hoarse shouts and excitement successfully aroused the atmosphere of the entire fighting arena, and the people in the audience became excited. Bing. Ji. Zhao. Li. Sword. Emperor. Bingji. Sword. King. Sword King. Zhao. Li. Xiaoli. Come on, Sword King. Defeat Bingji and let him see who is worthy of wielding the sword. Amidst the waves of shouts, Lingtian slowly walked into the spirit fighting arena with that mask on. Originally, Lingtian only planned to play a few games to adapt to the soul power. As a result, I discovered that I was only 9 wins away from the Sapphire Medal, so I temporarily changed my focus and decided to play a few more games here and win the Sapphire Medal on the waypoint. So I stayed in Soto City for 3 days. Lingtian walked to the stage and looked around with a hint of surprise in his cold eyes. It feels like there are a lot more people today. Raise of light shone from the surrounding lights, illuminating the entire soul fighting arena like daylight. Sword. Emperor. Bingji. 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 At the same time, a young man in his late 20s walked out from the other side of the soul fighting stage. He had a well-proportioned figure, regular facial features, and his long hair was tied into braids, giving him a somewhat ancient feel. Zhao Li. It's Sword King Zhao Li. Come on Zhao Li. With the appearance of the two soul fighting players, voices of support from both sides arose one after another. Bingji, I have seen your battle. Zhao Li's eyes glowed with a hint of scarlet, and he said in a low tone, although you are good in strength, our soul power is quite different. If you want to fight with me, you must be prepared to be carried out. Although this is a challenge area, when you draw your sword, you will see blood. Then, let's try it. Although Lingtian's tone remained calm, his ice blue eyes showed a hint of fighting spirit. Soul fighting. Begin. Following the referee's order, the two disappeared from the spot almost at the same time. Point bang. The next moment the bloodthirsty sword and the ice sword collided, and the ice blue and blood red light eroded each other. Ding ding ding. The crisp sound of sword blades clashing sounded one after another. Lingtian and Zhao Li kept changing their wrists, and the long swords in their hands struck again and again. A variety of exquisite swordsmanship such as pure swordsmanship, prodding and teasing, were performed by the two of them. In the VIP room on the grandstand. Chuhi, the lord of Sochou City, turned his head and asked with interest, Manager Wang, who do you think can win between Bingji and Zhao Li? My subordinates think it should be Zhao Li. Wang Lin, the director of the Soto Great Soul Fighting Arena, cupped his hands and said with a smile, although Bingji has maintained a winning streak and defeated several soul sects, Zhao Li is a disciple of the Fengjian sect, and his martial spirit is also a top quality sword martial spirit, but I think Bingji has a better chance of winning. Chuhi said, looking at Lingtian with a deep meaning in his eyes as the two talked. The situation off the field also changed. Kyanga bloody light suddenly lit up on the bloodthirsty sword, and then the blood light gathered into a sharp blood arrow, which pierced Lingtian's eyebrows at an extremely fast speed. Bite. Lingtian took half a step back and held the Bingji sword in front of him. Seeing this scene, a sneer appeared at the corner of Zhao Li's mouth, and he swung his sword and struck out the first soul skill, bloodthirsty slash. Whoosh. I saw the bloodthirsty sword in Zhao Li's hand burst out with bright light, as if it turned into a rainbow, carrying powerful sword energy and sharpness, slashing towards Chen Yu's body. Tier. However, at this time, the first soul skill, Ice Blade, a sharp sword light, containing unparalleled momentum and power, directly tore the heaven and earth apart, and hit the bloodlight fiercely. Boom. There was a loud noise, and the two sword lights were annihilated at the same time. Come again. Zhao Li gritted his teeth and yelled, the fourth soul skill, bloodthirsty dance, stab, sting. He gritted his teeth, and his muscles suddenly swelled. At the same time, his whole body exuded a powerful aura, and his red eyes shone with a strange red light. The next moment Zhao Li suddenly disappeared on the spot. Quick, very fast, the ground seemed unable to withstand this kick, and the force brought by it shattered into countless cracks. As the space burst and trembled, a blood-red figure suddenly appeared. By the time everyone in the stands reacted, the bloodthirsty sword shrouded in a layer of bloodlight was already at Lingtian's heart and was about to stab him. About to lose. Will Bingji's winning streak be ended by Zhao Li? The Ice and Snow Sword King finally lost to the bloodthirsty Sword King. Just when everyone was talking and lamenting Lingtian's defeat, the bloodthirsty sword pierced his chest without any pause. Click. However, it was not the sound piercing the flesh as imagined, but a crisp sound. That's right, it's crisp. It's like the sound of mirror being shattered. Is this fake? Zhao Li finally realized something was wrong at this moment. His blood-red eyes regained some clarity, and then he realized that apart from a broken ice sculpture in front of him, there was not even half a shadow of Lingtian. Then Zhao Li's heart suddenly trembled, and he felt an extremely dangerous signal. Not but just when he was about to pull away, the ice sculpture on the verge of breaking in front of him started to move. The broken ice blocked Zhao Li's arms, making it impossible for him to pull away in a short time. At the same time, a cold voice came from behind. It's my turn now, Banger. Ice sculpture shattered suddenly, completely imprisoning Xiaoli in place. Breaking. Mountain pose. Lingtian did not use any soul skills, but chose to pour soul power into the Bingji sword, using a sword move that was completely perfected not long ago. That was realized in the far north point at that time, when the Snow Emperor split a majestic and towering snow-capped mountain with his own hands using the Emperor's sword among the Snow Emperor's 3 skills in front of him. He realized a different artistic conception from the 7 killing sword. As time went by, he finally understood this sword intention, and converted the sword intention from the Emperor's sword into a sword that belonged to him. The next moment, a towering snow mountain seemed to appear in front of Xiaoli. Then, before he could react, a sword beam stronger than before split open the snowy mountain, and the indomitable sword intent locked it firmly. No, I won't lose. How could I end up here? Bloodthirsty. Killing. Xiao Li's eyes were blood red at this moment, and his bloodthirsty sword waved out streaks of blood. The gloomy blood light had no effect in the face of a sword that could open mountains. It was instantly torn into pieces by the sharp sword light. Wow. Moreover, this sharp sword light remained unabated and continued to slash towards Xiaoli. Chapter 44 Generous Spiritual Talent. Xiaoli never thought that his attack would be directly broken by Lingtian's sword, so he had no time to dodge. Poof. I saw that the sharp sword light pierced into his body instantly with lightning speed. Finally, when the bright sword light disappeared, Xiaoli had been cut down from the ring by the sword intention. Bang. Xiaoli fell heavily onto the protective cover, staining the arena of the soul fighting arena with blood. Just like this, a dramatic scene appeared. Xiaoli, who originally wanted to let Lingtian's blood stain the arena, was finally beaten by Lingtian and the arena was miserable. Gudu, the referee in charge, rubbed his eyes, hurriedly walked over, raised Lingtian's hand, and said in a trembling voice, I declare that the winner of this competition is Ice G Sword Emperor. The total number of victories is 322. Fields, 0 failures. Sword King, Sapphire, Metal, Sword Emperor Bingji. Is this the 9th soul sect that the Sword Emperor has defeated? As expected of the Sword King, I really want to see what he looks like under his mask. Amid loud cheers from the audience, Lingtian had already left the soul fighting stage. A person in charge of the Soto Spirit Arena quickly walked up to Lingtian and respectfully handed over the medal in his hand. Mr. Bingji, this is your sapphire medal. Thank you. Lingtian nodded and put the medal into the ring. Mr. Bingji, Wang Lin, who came down from the VIP area, called out to Lingtian. Then he said with a warm smile and a sincere invitation, do you intend to become a hired spirit master in our Soto Grand Spirit Arena? Normally, it's nothing. I just need you to take action after someone violates the rules of our fighting arena. Since you are now a sapphire medal, we will prepare a generous reward for you. Lingtian shook his head and said lightly, I'm not interested. Mr. Bingji won't think about it until he hears our remuneration. Wang Lin was still a little unwilling and asked, unnecessary, then. I'm sorry to disturb you, Mr. Bingji. Lingtian ignored this person and left the Soto Spirit Arena. A moment later, in the top box of Soto Spirit Fighting Arena. A wry smile appeared at the corner of Wang Lin's mouth, and he said with a bit of helplessness, City Lord, you guessed it right, he did reject our invitation. Bingji is not something our small Soto city can keep. Chuhi, who was sitting on the sofa, had a flash of deep meaning in his eyes. Wang Lin thought about it and asked, does he have other identities? There is a big shot behind Bingji. Chu. He picked up the teacup and took a sip and said with a sigh, it is said that all the evil forces in Ice and Snow City were pulled up by a mysterious strong man in one night, and even Soul Saint and Soul Douluo could not stop them. His pace. One night. Wang Lin looked shocked and almost pulled off his beard. So Chu. He suddenly stood up, glanced at Wang Lin meaningfully, and said, you'd better not have any evil intentions towards Bingji, otherwise even I, the City Lord, may not be able to protect you. City Lord, what does this mean? Why can't I understand? Wang Lin's expression suddenly changed, but he still pretended to be calm and answered, as long as you understand in your heart, Chu. He shook his head indifferently and then strode outside. Click. Fourth, call them back to me. At the same time, on the streets of Soto City, Want all the candied whores on top? All of them. Lingtian took out a gold soul coin, raised his head and asked lightly, is there any question? No, these are all yours. The vendor's eyes lit up, and he quickly handed over the stick full of candied whores. This young master is so generous. 1 gintama coin is enough to buy him half a year's worth of candied whores. The rest is the money from selling your stall. Lingtian, who had changed into a light blue gown, reached out and pulled out a candied whores, then waved his right hand in front of his face. The phoenix ring between his fingers lit up with a blue light, and he put away the remaining candied whores together with a wooden stick. Point got in. Thank you. Looking at the few extra copper soul coins in front of him, the vendor quickly nodded and bowed his thanks. Just as Lingtian was eating candied whores and preparing to leave the city, he saw a familiar figure at the gate of the city. Senior Sister Angrong, wearing a light blue dress. Her tall figure and beautiful appearance make her stand out like a white swan. Today, I must. Before Ning Rangrang could finish speaking, a cold voice came to her ears. Senior sister, shouldn't you be in the academy at this time? Teacher, junior brother, why are you here? Looking at Ning Rangrang, who looked evasive, Lingtian sighed helplessly. So, you sneaked out from Shrek Academy again? Yeah, you can't say that. Ning Rangrang turned her head away in embarrassment and poked her chest with her white fingertips. Let's go. Lingtian shook his head helplessly. Ning Rangrang, who knew she was in the wrong, didn't say anything and followed Lingtian awkwardly. 1 week later, facing the rising sun, Lingtian closed his eyes and felt the warm light shining on his fair face. The originally cold face seemed warm and clear at this moment. Clang. Suddenly Lingtian opened his eyes, and a cold and harsh breath hit his face. Immediately afterwards, the long sword in his hand suddenly swung, and crystal snowflakes suddenly appeared within 3 feet of his body. At the same time, the long sword took off, and exquisite sword skills were displayed from his hand. Although his figure shuttled back and forth among the dense snow shadows, he was able to dodge exquisitely while dancing his sword, and not a single snowflake stained his clothes until he stood up with his sword put away. Junior brother Lingtian, so strong. Ning Rangrang's beautiful eyes were full of brilliance at this moment. She didn't expect that Lingtian's swordsmanship had reached this point without even knowing it. Without using soul power, I'm afraid there are not many soul masters who can do what his junior brother did. Lingtian suddenly paused, tilted the Bingji and Shang sword downward with one hand, and then raised it upwards. A flash of ice blue sword light flashed and disappeared into the distant sky. As the last sword was struck, Lingtian put away his sword and stood silently comprehending what he had just realized. After a while, Lingtian came back to his senses, frowned slightly and asked in a deep voice, Senior sister, it's time. Shouldn't you be training? He was practicing his sword just now and didn't pay attention to Ning Rangrang beside him. I'm too tired from training. I don't want to train every day. Ning Rangrang's white fingers kept circling, lowering her head and explaining in a low voice. Chapter 45. My own cabbage. While Lingtian sighed, walked to Ning Rangrang's side and said calmly, Senior sister, this is your 5th escape training this week. Yes. Are there so many? Ning Rangrang's pretty face turned red and she avoided Lingtian's calm gaze. This is the record Flanders gave me. 5 days ago you slept in the dormitory and did not attend the morning news. 4 days ago during the morning training, you went to Soto City to have fun. Lingtian put down the record file in his hand and asked in a deep voice, 2 days. Do you want me to continue listing them? No need. Ning Rangrang raised his head and glanced at Lingtian, then quickly lowered his head and said weakly, I just think the training at Shrek Academy. Do you think their training is useless, Senior Sister Angrong? Although Shrek Academy is not as good as a 7 treasure glazed tile sect, I have also seen their training, and it is still of great help to your growth now. Lingtian specially observed the training at Shrek Academy a few days ago. Although the training methods are very conventional, they are still of great help to great soul masters. After all, there are not many novel ways to train great soul masters, and if Ning Rangrang trains seriously here, the improvement of soul power should not be as bad as that of the sect. Of course, this does not mean that Shrek can be compared with the 7 treasure glazed tile sect. The main reason is Ning Rangrang's identity as the young master of the Kibeo glazed sect. The sole masters in the sect who were responsible for teaching her, as well as the disciples who studied with her, all had some scruples. As for Flanders, since most of the teachers and students do not know Ning Rangrang's true identity, they all treat her normally, so the results will naturally be better. Sister Rangrang, think about it carefully. Why do you stay in Shrek Academy? Why do you have to stay in Shrek Academy? Lingtian's tone became serious, and he said seriously, if you just want to find a place where Uncle Ning can't control and have fun for 3 months, then you don't have to stay in Shrek Academy. I will tell Uncle Ning I'll tell you to have a good time. Not I. Then why do you stay at Shrek Academy? Ning Rangrang was speechless for a moment and fell into deep thought. Why should I stay in Shrek Academy? Having fun. No point. Stay away from the sect? No point because it's fun. No point. Then why do you have to stay here? Ning Rangrang felt confused for the first time. However, at this moment, a cold voice appeared in her mind. Ning Rangrang, have you heard everything? Ask yourself, which one of them can you compare to? Here, you are already the worst existence. What qualifications do you have to be proud of? I dare say, as long as you leave my place, 20 years later, each of their achievements will be much greater than yours. At that time, every word Flanders said was like a sharp sword piercing her heart, completely shattering the most proud thing in her heart. Dame Yubei, Tang San, Zio Wu, Zhu Zuking, Mahangjin, Oscar. She couldn't compare to any of these 6 people, and the talent she was proud of fell to pieces in front of them. It was also at that time that she decided to stay at Shrek. Not for any other reason, just to prove herself. To prove that she, Ning Rangrang, is no worse than any of them. Junior brother, I understand. Ning Rangrang suddenly raised her head, her eyes once again glowing with her original confidence. I will train seriously, and I will prove to Flanders that the eldest lady of the 7 treasures glazed sect is no worse than anyone here. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Rangrang set off towards the training ground. Then, I'll just wait and see how senior sister changes. Lingtian's cold eyes flashed with a look of relief, and he had just wasted so much time in vain. Ning Rangrang finally listened to his persuasion. With or thought in his mind, Lingtian took out a bunch of candied horse from the storage space. Click. The space ring is really a good thing. Tasting the candied horse full of sugar-coated horse with no change in color and taste. A satisfied smile appeared on Lingtian's lips. Brush. A fallen leaf suddenly fell. Lingtian, who had just bitten a hawthorn, suddenly noticed something and said softly to the empty space, Dean Flanders, are you satisfied now? Haha. I can't bear to see Ning Rangrang wasting his talent. Flanders suddenly appeared in front of Lingtian. A sly look flashed in his eyes. Haha, old fox. Lingtian curled his lips and swallowed the last hawthorn. Whoosh. With a flick of his wrist, the bamboo stick was inserted into a tree trunk not far away. Lingtian had already inserted many bamboo sticks into it. Lingtian clapped his hands and stood up, turned his head to look at Flanders, and said calmly, Dean Flanders, next I want to see the progress of senior sister. Don't worry, as long as Ning Rangrang trains hard, she will definitely make progress. Flanders said with confidence, seemingly full of confidence in his education. After that, Ning Rangrang also fulfilled her promise and began to train seriously and no longer thought about being lazy. Although her soul power had not achieved a breakthrough in a short period of time, she finally no longer treated the training with a playful attitude. At the same time, Qian Dou City, Prince's Mansion, Ocean. Although the letter only described some daily trivial matters in Lingtian, Qian Renxue's eyes were still filled with joy. The sapphire medal is worthy of being my little one. Candied horse? The little guy's taste has never changed. Looking at each incident on the letter, the smile in Qian Renxue's eyes grew stronger and stronger. Ning Rangrang. It wasn't until Qian Renxue saw Ning Rangrang mentioned many times in the letter that the smile on her face gradually faded and a vigilant look appeared in her eyes. It seems we have to hurry up and bring the little guy back from the Kibeo glazed sect. Qian Renxue put down the letter in her hand, stared at the phoenix ring on her hand with her pale golden eyes, and a smile from the heart appeared on the corner of her mouth point. Although Qian Renxue felt that Ningrangrang was not a threat, she still felt a sense of crisis in her heart. Lingtian was the cabbage she had raised with great difficulty. How could she let others take it away before she even touched it? Although Ningrangrang seemed to have not started poaching, Qian Renxue decided to fundamentally eliminate the possibility of this matter. The little one is hers and will belong to her forever. At this moment, there was a burst of hurried steps outside the door, and then a figure half knelt outside the house and said in a respectful tone, "Your Highness, someone from the palace has sent a message. Please enter the palace as soon as possible." Qian Renxue gathered her thoughts, put away the letter and said calmly, "Prepare the car." Chapter 46 Departure. Capital. 1 month later since the last conversation, Ningrangrang changed her previous serious training, and Lingtian no longer needs to be distracted by her. In addition to daily training, she also goes to the spirit fighting field from time to time to hone her soul skills. The name of Sword Emperor Bingji also resounded throughout Soto City, and there were even many soul sects who went to Soto City specifically just to fight Lingtian. As for the Shrek 7 monsters, Lingtian has no intention of having a close relationship with them. Shrek Academy. Daimubei recovered from his injury half a month ago and returned to the team. Perhaps because of Flanders warning or Lingtian's intimidation, Daimubei became much more honest than expected and did not seek revenge or verbal provocation against Ningrangrang. But his temperament is much gloomier than before, and his strange aura makes people feel uncomfortable. Because of Lingtian, Daimubei no longer tried to ease his relationship with Zhu Zuking like in the original work, and even blamed Zhu Zuking for his injury, which made the relationship between the two even worse than it was at the beginning. But this also suits Zhu Zuking's wishes. Early morning, Shrek Academy Square. At this moment, Ningrangrang, Tangsan, Xiao Wu, Zhu Zuking, Mahangjin, and Daimubei had already had breakfast and were gathering in the square to wait for Oscar. Daimubei suddenly said, "Fat man, did you feel good last night, Ma?" Hangjin's eyes lit up, and he echoed with a vulgar expression, "Boss Day, you are so interesting. Don't forget about brother when you have such good things to do in the future." "Certainly, Day." Daimubei smiled proudly, but when he saw Zhu Zuking, whose expression was still cold, as if he was not affected in any way, he regained his previous gloominess, especially when he glanced at Ningrangrang. He gritted his teeth and a look of resentment flashed through his eyes, but he quickly returned to his original expression, and no one noticed anything unusual about him. Bellingling class bell rang. After almost a quarter of an hour, Flanders' figure slowly walked over. Flanders glanced at everyone, frowned slightly and looked at Tangsan. "Where's Oscar? Is he sleeping in again?" The Oscar soul power breakthrough is moved back 1 month here. For the sake of the plot, I hope everyone can understand, and don't be too serious here, Tangsan hurriedly said. "He was still practicing when I came out in the morning. Maybe he fell into trance and failed to wake up in time." "You're sleeping in after only 1 month of school? Tangsan, go call him." "Yes, Tang." Sin was just about to go back to the dormitory when he saw Oscar running over from the direction of the dormitory. However, his face was not panicked about being late, but instead was filled with excitement. "Oscar, do you want to run laps again?" Dean Flender glared at him. Oscar quickly shook his head. "No, Dean, please listen to my explanation. I have made a breakthrough. I have reached level 30. "What?" Flender's eyes brightened visibly. Okay. Oscar, you did not disappoint me. You are the second among the current students to reach level 30. I congratulate you on behalf of the academy." At this time, even Daimubei's face was no longer gloomy. He walked up to Oscar and patted his shoulder. "Xiao, congratulations. Although you reached level 30 a little slower than me, as a food type soul master, you are already the most outstanding genius I have ever seen." Tang San, Xiao Wu, Mahangjin, and Ningrangrang also stepped forward to express their congratulations. "Okay, since Oscar has broken through level 30, we will give you half a day's rest today. Tomorrow, let teachers Aowuji take you to the Star Forest to help Oscar hunt for the third soul ring." Flanders looked around at everyone, and then said in a serious tone, "This is not just Oscar's business, it is also the experience of all of you. Before encountering the 1,000-year soul beast, Teacher Zhao will not take action easily. Everything has to depend on yourselves. Okay, let's disband now." The other side point Lingtian, who had just returned from the Soto Great Soul fighting arena, was taken to the dean's office by Flanders as soon as he entered the academy. After a basic understanding of the situation, Lingtian decided to go to the Stardao forest with them. After thinking for a moment, there are two reasons. The first is for Ningrangrang's safety point. Because of Xiao Wu, they were bound to be attacked by the Titan ape, and now that Damu Bei and Ningrangrang had an irreconcilable hatred, it was hard to guarantee that he would take advantage of that moment to have his own thoughts. The second point is for experience point. The battles between soul beasts and soul masters are different. After practicing in the Soto Grand Soul Arena for so long, it is time to enter the soul beast forest to test one's training results in real combat. What time do you leave? At 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. All sources will gather in the playground. I'll be there. After confirming the time and place, Lingtian went to Ningrangrang and repeatedly told her to pay attention to her safety and be careful about Damu Bei's words before returning to her room with confidence. Early the next morning, everyone from Shrek Academy gathered in the playground after having breakfast. Zhao Wuji, in addition to protecting our group of precious students this time, when we go to the Star Forest, you must also pay attention to Lingtian's safety. Fran pulled Zhao Wuji and told him in an extremely serious tone, Lingtian is a disciple of Sword Douluo of the Seven Treasures Glazed sect. If anything happens to him, let alone you, we at Shrek Academy will not protect you. Don't worry, Boss Fu, I know what's going on. Zhao Wuji patted his chest confidently and said with a smile, we are just hunting soul beasts on the outskirts of the Stardao forest. With the strength of my soul saint, I can protect them more than enough. Flanders rolled his eyes at Zhao Wuji. Don't be careless, don't let anything happen. Flender then went up to the side and told Lingtian not to take any risks. If he had any problems, he could just come to Zhao Wuji and he would help solve any problems. Soon the Shrek Academy group started to set off point. Although there were only 9 people in total, they were divided into 2 teams. Because Lingtian is not a student of Shrek Academy, he is on the same team as Zhao Wuji. Students like Ningrangrang, Tangsan, Xiao Wu, Damu Bei, Zhu Zuking, Mahangjin, and Oscar formed the second team. Because this was an experience for the students, Lingtian and Zhao Wuji did not interfere with their arrangements. Although Damu Bei was full of resentment towards Ningrangrang in his heart, he also knew that now was not the time to act impulsively, so he still arranged the team very reasonably according to the original plot point. Because of the growth of Ningrangrang and Oscar in the middle, although everyone in Shrek Academy was a little tired due to the long journey, their physical strength and soul power have been maintained within a stable range. Chapter 47 Hawthorn is an appetizer. The Stardao Grand Forest is located in the southeast of the Kingdom of Barak. There is a small part of the borders of the Kingdom of Barak. Soto City itself is also in the southeast of the Kingdom of Barak. It is not far from the Stardao Grand Forest. It is only less than 500 kilometers. Therefore, this is naturally the best choice for students at the Slack College to get the soul ring point under the increase of the dual auxiliary soul divisions of Oscar and Ningrangrang. It took just a day. When the night fell temporarily, the people of Shrek College had rushed for more than 400 kilometers, which was close to the Stardao Grand Forest. Seeing that it was impossible to reach the destination today, Zhao Wuji gave a rest order. Because they just came to a small town and then continued to move forward, it would be difficult to say whether there was a supply point into the town point. Although there are more than 100 kilometers from the Stardao Great Forest, it is the nearest city point. Because the Stardao Great Forest is a wild soul beast, if the location of the city is too close to the forest, it is easy to be harassed by the soul beast. So it is generally built in a slightly far place. It is precisely because of the particularity of its geographical location that the scale and prosperity of the town are very developed. Except for no city walls, there is no difference between a small city here. Various shops are lined up on both sides. However, most of them are specialized in selling weapons, selling armor, selling detoxifying, recovery of pharmaceuticals, and even those who sell clothes, to sell more than a dozen pockets that can install a lot of debris, which is suitable for special clothing for Soul Master Adventure Point at this time. Zhao Wauqi pointed to a hotel that looked very common in front, saying, "Let's stay here. Now dissolve, rest for one night, and leave tomorrow morning." Point after opening the room, Ning Rangrang ran to Lingtian. "Master, I want to eat too." Give. Lingtian thought about it, and a rock sugar good was taken out of the storage ring. He had accusing a lot of rock sugar goods in Soto City before, and it was not different from Ning Rangrang. Ning Rangrang smiled and took the rock sugar good. Point, I don't know if it is because I haven't eaten for a long time or because of Lingtian handed over. Ning Rangrang thinks that this rock sugar good is particularly sweet. Point. Ning Rangrang pulled Lingtian. "Master, do we go there to stroll around?" Lingtian rubbed his stomach. "I'm a little hungry." Lingtian. Ning Rangrang. "Master, let's eat." Ning Rangrang sighed helplessly and finally gave up the idea of going out to visit. Point. On the other side. Point. Damu Bei and others have entered the restaurant. Point. This is a small building on the second floor. The lobby on the first floor is a simple restaurant. Let's eat first. After eating the sausage for a day, I now see that it has to be nauseous. Mahanjan put forward his thoughts and got unanimous approval by everyone. Need to call Rangrang them. I don't know who suddenly mentioned it, and everyone looked at Damu Bei together, and the atmosphere suddenly became embarrassing. Point. Lingtian. Damu Bei, let them eat together. Which idiot was proposed? Didn't you see that Damu's white face was black? How can the hatred between the two of them sit together and eat together? Rang just told me not to wait for her. At the critical moment, Zhao Wu stood out, recovering the dinner that was on the verge of broken tables. Tangsun also opened in a timely manner, breaking the embarrassment, and looking at Damu Bei. "Well, hurry up, right? Mu Bei, do we want to ask Teacher Zhao to dinner together?" Mu Bei's face returned to normal and said, "No, the teacher and us will not pay any fees for us, but they will not accept any benefit of us. This is the rules formulated by Dean Frand." The fat man laughed. "Isn't this good? Everything is clear. My favorite is the unprecedented feeling of the college." Soon, the atmosphere returned to the beginning of joy again. Not far away. Point. Lingtian and Ning Rangrang sat at the other table at the restaurant. Point. Ning Rangrang put down the menu and looked at Lingtian and pulled out a rock sugar good again. In the end, he couldn't help reminding, "Master brother, you have to eat. Why are you still eating snacks? Hawthorn is appetizing." After Lingtian swallowed the last hawthorn, in Ning Rangrang's helpless eyes, a new rock sugar good was taken out. Point. Click. I started eating again. Ning Rangrang looked at Lingtian with a speechless expression and said, "Even if it is hawthorn appetizing, you can't eat all the time. Guest officer, your dish is here." A hawker holding a tray and putting a few plates of color and fragrance in front of the two. Point. These dishes are all of Ning Rangrang. As the little princess of Kibeoliu Lizang, they have tasted countless foods. The quality of ordering will not be too bad. Point. At the same time. Point. When Lingtian and Ning Rangrang started eating, there were another party at the door, and all 8 people wore unified costumes headed. A middle-aged man in his 40s looks handsome. His hair is extremely bright, and a moon-white Soul Master robe is even more sophisticated. Point. The light flickering. Point. Behind the middle-aged people, the 6 men and 1 young man, and the 6 men and 1 woman are around 20 years old. They are wearing the same moon-white Soul Master robe. Point. But there is no silver silk embroidered in the middle-aged man in front. But whether it is middle-aged or 7 young people behind, there is a signed ring mark on the left shoulder. Kanghu. Point. Representing these Soul Masters from Kanghu College. Point. When the shop owner saw this group of people coming, he immediately greeted him with a smile and nodded his head and his attitude. After all, he was eaten by the Soul Master then. Ning Rangrang cast towards the curious eyes. Kanghu College, an ordinary senior soul teacher college. Lingtian glanced at Lingtian and retracted his attention and continued to focus on the table. Point. These people are important to have dry rice. Point. After listening to Lingtian's introduction, Ning Rangrang also recovered his gaze boringly. Point. But the other side, his That little girl looks so good. Boss Day is from Kanghu College. After seeing the crowd of Kanghu College, Mahanjan stared at the only girl in the 8 teams. The sight is on the chest, thighs, and hips, and staring at others unscrupulously, and at the same time, they also ridiculed. Damu Bei leaned his lips. It's just a little Kanghu College. Zhang Yang fart. He was in a bad mood. In addition, he had been going to be mad, and now Zhao Waoqi supports his waist behind him. Chapter 48. The arrogant Damu Bei. Neither Fatty nor Damu Bei deliberately lowered their voices. The Soul Master's hearing is naturally better than that of normal people. Even though the restaurant was a bit noisy, the middle-aged man among the 8 people still looked over and frowned slightly when he saw that the table at Shrek Academy was just a group of children. His face suddenly became even more ugly. Oscar sat next to Tang San and said with a low smile, "We have a good show to watch." Tang San glanced at him with some confusion. "What's the show?" Oscar whispered. "This is also part of our practice." Dean Flender said that a soul master who dare not cause trouble is not a good soul master. As the saying goes, a soul master who dare not cause trouble is a mediocre person. Moreover, provoking those from the Soul Master Academy people are the safest. The most they can do is fight. Tang San couldn't help but laugh. Dean's quotations can be added together to form a monster quotation. Judging from their ages, this Kanghu Academy should be an advanced Soul Master Academy. Soon, under the instruction of the teacher from Kanghu College, a young man stood up from his seat and walked towards Tang San's table. According to the route he was walking, he was heading towards Damu Bei. There was a trace of disdain in Damu Bei's evil eyes. Tang San could see it, so he certainly didn't know, but he didn't even look at him. At this time, the waiter brought the first dish to their table. The young man from Kanghu College suddenly quickened his pace, and amidst the waiter's exclamation, he bumped into the waiter and saw the plate of food being knocked down on Damu Bei's head. "Don't waste food," Tang San said calmly, his left hand stretched out like lightning, steadying the waiter's body, and his right hand stretched out to hold the plate. Using the strength of controlling the crane and capturing the dragon, he absorbed the dishes without spilling anything and placed the plate lightly on the table. On the table. At the same time, he had already pulled the waiter aside with his left hand. The young man from Kanghu Academy was stunned for a moment. Because of the waiter's body blocking him, he couldn't see Tang San's movements clearly. However, a sly smile soon appeared on his face. "I'm really sorry." Saying this, he still walked forward and seemed to be passing by Damu Bei, but one of his feet quietly swept across and directly kicked the leg of the chair that Damu Bei was stepping on. It was just an ordinary wooden chair. Once one of the legs of the chair was kicked off, Damu Bei would naturally be unable to sit still. Moreover, the young man's movements were very concealed, and his upper body did not move. If he did not pay special attention, he would not be able to notice it. His movements. Just as the young man kicked out, Damu Bei moved. Do tigers have good tempers? The answer is of course no. When Lingtian and Ning Rangrang were mentioned just now, Damu Bei became very angry. Just because they were classmates, how could he let go of this opportunity? Now that someone was taking the initiative to get involved, there was a muffled bang. The young man from Kanghu College felt as if he had been kicked on an iron plate, and his whole calf was numb. Immediately afterwards, Damu Bei slapped him. The young man's expression changed greatly, and he raised his hands to hold Damu Bei's hand, but who knew that his hands were completely shaken away by the soul power attached to Damu Bei's palm, and the palm was still firmly slapped on his chest. The young man was quite tall, but his whole body arched backwards. After being hit by Damu Bei's slap, he was thrown away like a weightless scarecrow, knocking over 2 tables one after another, and flew towards Kanghu. A group of people from the college. The middle-aged man from Kanghu College stood up in a hurry, raised his hands, grabbed the young man's shoulders, and picked him up. The young man's face turned pale, and with a wow sound, he spurted out a mouthful of blood, and his whole body became exhausted. A lot. "I'm so sorry, I missed it." Damu Bei straightened his body and stretched his waist by using the previous palm movement. The true nature of the white tiger with evil eyes was revealed, the disdain and contempt on his face, with strong arrogance. "You, the young man was helped up and pointed at Daemube. It was obviously Daemube and the others who provoked them first, but they still took action like this. Do they really think that Kanghu Academy is a soft persimmon that is easy to bully? At the same time, the sound of fighting just now also attracted the attention of others. There was an uproar in the restaurant, and the diners near the Shrek Academy and Kanghu Academy tables quickly got up and moved aside to avoid harming Caillou. But most people did not leave the restaurant immediately, but looked at the scene in front of them with excitement. You know, if you want to watch the duel between Soul Masters on weekdays, you have to go to the Grand Soul Fighting Arena, which is expensive. Being able to see it for free at this time, ordinary people who also have martial souls will naturally be excited. What's more, in this place, Soul Masters often appear. Ning Rangran put down her chopsticks and said in surprise, "Junior brother, are Daemube and the others going to fight?" It should be. Lingtian glanced at it with his peripheral vision and responded lightly. Although he couldn't stand Daemube's arrogance, he would not get involved in this matter. In the world of Douluo continent, where the jungle prevails, there is no right or wrong. Whoever has the biggest fist speaks the truth, and strength is the only one. Ning Rangran was a little moved. "Junior brother, do you think we should do it?" "Don't want." Lingtian directly rejected Ning Rangran's proposal without thinking. Okay. Ning Rangrang, whose interest was dismissed, could only look at Shrek's performance in disgust. At the same time, how could the Kanghu Academy group hold back? The remaining 6 colleges stood up and glared at the Shrek Academy table. They wanted to rush over, but were stopped by the middle-aged man. "These kids, which college are you from?" "Pan Dou, you are not worthy yet." As he spoke, Daemube cast a provocative glance at everyone at Kanghu College, and then sat back down in his seat. Mahanjan on the side acted as if nothing had happened. He moved very quickly, especially when eating. He had already started eating. He said while eating, "Well, the taste is okay, but the heat is a bit off. Let's make do with it." As soon as these words came out, the teacher of Kanghu Academy was completely angered by the arrogant attitude of everyone in Shrek Academy. What a bunch of arrogant boys. Teach them a lesson. The students of Kanghu Academy had been waiting for him to speak. After giving the order, except for the only girl, the other 5 people immediately rushed towards their table at Shrek Academy. At this time, Mahanjan and Daemube took action together. The 5 young men were stunned for a moment at the same time and couldn't help but look at each other. But they quickly came to their senses and reminded each other, "Release the martial spirit." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, Picking Things Up. Capital. For a time, all kinds of lights shined. The 5 young men's soul rings have the same color, one white and one yellow, which represents a 10-year soul ring and a century-old soul ring. Naturally, the 5 of them are all 2nd level great soul masters without exception, including 2 weapon soul battle soul masters and 3 beast soul battle soul masters. The 2 weapon spirits are the spear and the 3-pronged fork, and the 3 animal spirits are the deer, sheep and horse. Judging from the spirit itself, none of them are powerful spirits. Looking at the martial soul released by the other party, the disdainful light in Daemube's evil eyes became even brighter. Is this a disciple of the so-called Advanced Soul Master Academy? Does anyone still have a 10-year soul ring? Brothers, open the soul ring for me. Let them take a look. The oldest of the Shrek Academy students, the evil-eyed white tiger, has never been a reasonable person. Even after being taught a lesson by Lingtian, he is still the same. Unless you let him recognize you in terms of strength. Otherwise, Daemube's look of looking higher than me will not change. White tiger, possessed. A layer of intense pale light suddenly burst out from his body. Daemube stretched his arms to both sides at the same time, raised his chest, and the bones in his body crackled, and his muscles suddenly expanded, holding up the clothes on his body. The 4 pupils of Daemube's eyes turned into a deep blue. The cold murderous intent was invisible, full of tyrannical deterrence. Under his feet, 3 shining halos rose one after another, 2 yellow and 1 purple point as the soul ring circulates. The surging soul power forms a wave-like pressure and hits the face point. Perhaps it was because of the conflict between the martial spirits. When Dame Bei finished possessing the mighty martial soul, the 3 opposing warrior soul masters who possessed the beast martial soul couldn't help but trembled and took a few steps back. How can deer, sheep, and horses not be afraid in front of tigers, especially the purple soul ring on Dame Bei, which represents 1,000 years, shocked the 5 Kanghu College students in front of him. When Dame Bei released his martial spirit, Tangsun and Mahanjan also released their own strength. Phoenix, possessed, purple red. Light surged out from the fat man's body, and his short head suddenly became longer. It gathered towards the center and turned into a mohawk-like movement. 2 yellow soul rings rose from his feet at the same time, and the exposed long feathers extend from the thick arms, and the hands become claw-shaped. The scorching airflow revolved around the fat man's body, even though he was much shorter than the Kanghu students opposite him. But after the purple flame was released from the body, the whole person's momentum became completely different. Coupled with Dame Bei's white tiger martial spirit, the suppressed opponent felt like he was out of breath, possessed by a martial spirit. White tiger fierce light wave. Boom, there was a loud noise. I saw several people being blown away instantly. Mahanjan was not idle and immediately used Phoenix Firewire. In an instant, he burned every table in the store. Dame Bei glanced to the side while he was being slapped and happened to see Lingtian and Ningrangrang. His expression suddenly stopped. A strange color flashed in his eyes, and then he suddenly kicked a student from Kanghu College directly to the side. It flew out and hit Lingtian's dining table. Wow, the table full of food was immediately knocked to the floor. If Lingtian hadn't reacted quickly and used his soul power to form a soul power defense shield in front of himself and Ningrangrong, he would have been covered in mess and splashed with vegetable soup. Originally Lingtian didn't plan to participate, but now it's different. Junior brother, on purpose. Lingtian frowned and looked at Dame Bei. Just now, he suddenly felt a sense of malice coming from the direction of Dame Bei, and then his table was overturned by them. Lingtian wouldn't believe it if there was no connection. Senior Sister Angrong, please wait here for a while. Lingtian waved his hand to disperse the soul barrier in front of himself and Ningrangrong, and slowly stood up and looked at Dame Bei's position, while an icy chill appeared in his eyes. The trouble was brought to his head. Smash the table. Since you like to seek death so much, then I will accompany you to have fun. Lingtian called out the Bingji sword and walked slowly towards Dame Bei. At the same time, under the repeated bombardment of Dame Bei and other soul skills, the 5 Kanghu Academy students on the opposite side were completely discouraged. They couldn't understand the difference in strength between one soul ring, not to mention this person's 3rd soul ring is still at the 1,000-year level, so how can it be something they can't resist? What makes the students of Kanghu Academy extremely unbalanced is that the teenagers in front of them look much younger than them, but the strength they display is already above them. Stop. The teacher from Kanghu College finally couldn't help but stand up and wave to his students. You all stand down. After all, this teacher is already middle-aged. Seeing Dame Bei unleash his true strength, he has already thought of many possibilities in his mind. Not to mention that several of his students cannot be the opponent's opponents. Even if he can defeat the opponent, he will not let them take action again. There are some troubles that cannot be provoked. I am Yizukiu, director of the Foreign Affairs Department of Kanghu College. May I ask, which sector you from? Seeing Yizukiu walking up to the 3 of them in front of the soul power he released, he withstood the pressure without using his martial soul. Dame Bei was also secretly awestruck. In the situation before him, he was sure that the soul power of this middle-aged man was far superior to his own. We are from Shrek Academy. Before Dame Bei could speak, the fat man had already said triumphantly. As he spoke, his naked eyes glared hard at the only female student at Kanghu Academy, Nausea. The female student quickly hid behind Yizukiu and scolded her in disgust. Yizukiu was stunned for a moment, and there was a light of thought in his eyes. Obviously, he was not very familiar with the name Shrek Academy. Shrek Academy? I don't think I have heard of it. Liu Bei snorted coldly. That's because you are ignorant. Of course, although I was shocked by the opponent's strength, I would have just backed down point in front of so many diners. Kanghu College loses all its face. If the students are not good enough, they have to earn back some face for Kanghu College. Our Kanghu Academy has not provoked you. Why do you want to deal with our Kanghu Academy like this? Yizakyu said coldly. No reason. I just see that you are unhappy. Moreover, the purpose of our college is that those who dare not cause trouble are mediocre. Why don't you let us stir up trouble? Liu Bei said coldly. His arrogant attitude really makes people want to punch him. Liu Bei has already made his attitude clear. I'm just here to stir up trouble. What can you do to me? Chapter 50. Liu Bei with his face on the ground. Very good. This is what you said. Since you have bullied us, don't blame us for being rude. Thinking of this, Yizakyu no longer hesitated. His eyes flashed, and he released his martial spirit. Martial spirit possesses me. A circle of black ripples was released from Yizakyu's body, forcibly suppressing the momentum of Liu Bei and Fatty. His limbs shrank by a third at the same time, but his back had bulged, and it turned out to be a huge carapace. Black light flashed all over his body, and 5 soul rings rose from his feet, hovering above Yizakyu's body. The 5 soul rings are 1 white, 2 yellow, and 2 purple. The director of the Foreign Affairs Department of Kanghu College turned out to be an Earth Soul King level master above level 50. Although Yizakyu's soul ring is not very strong at the same level, but the soul power of level 50 is there. It suppresses the Shrek Academy side at once. There was a sound of exclamation in the entire restaurant. After all, the Soul King is already a rare soul master on the mainland. He is quite powerful and can already hold the title of Viscount or even Earl in some kingdoms. Seeing this scene, Liu Bei's expression changed. He didn't expect that he would provoke a Soul King. Mistress Liu Bei took a few steps back slightly and looked at Tang Sun beside him. After looking at each other, Tang Sun naturally understood what he meant, nodded, and at the same time, put his palms against the 24 bridges on the moonlit night at his waist. If the other party made any abnormal move, Tang Sun would take action. Yizakyu is not Zhao Wuji, so Tang Sun won't hold anything back this time. At the same time, Yizakyu didn't know what Tang Sun and others were planning, so he relied on his own Soul King strength and said to himself, you kids are not sensible. Don't talk nonsense in the future. Call the teachers from your academy to come out. The fat man screamed strangely. You are an old bastard, and you still want to see our teacher? We are enough to deal with you. You damn fat man. How dare you? One of the students from Kanghu College jumped out, pointed at Mahanjan and shouted angrily, everyone, dear soul masters, please don't fight in a small shop. It's a small business. A small business. The boss took courage and walked forward with a grimace to persuade. The boss's legs were trembling. He didn't want to provoke these soul masters, but this shop was his means of survival. If he didn't stand up, the shop would be destroyed by these people. Yizakyu possesses the black turtle martial spirit, and the most taboo thing in his life is the word bastard. Originally, he just wanted to scare the teenagers in front of him. After all, he didn't want to be accused of bullying the younger ones, not to mention that he didn't know the strength of the academy behind the children in front of him. But the fat man violated his taboo. Yizakyu was furious and laughed in anger. Okay, I will educate you for your teacher. Let's go outside. After saying that, he turned around and walked out. The way the big black tortoise shell shakes looks a bit funny, but the soul power released from his body is quite strong. Tang Sun and others also looked serious at this moment. Although Yizakyu's soul ring combination is very poor, after all, the Soul King's cultivation is there, and the Soul King with the strongest soul power among them is just the Soul King. It is not an ordinary difficulty to defeat Yizakyu. But they still want to try it. Because they have Zhao Wuji, the Soul Saint, as their support. Liu Bei and others are not worried that they will encounter danger. Liu Bei whispered to Tang San, be careful later. I will block the attacker's attack in front, but I'm afraid I won't be able to hold on for long, so your attack must be fast. Tang San said, we don't necessarily lose. Although his soul power is stronger than ours, there are flaws in his martial soul. At This time, several other people had also gathered around, just in time to hear Tang San's words, taking advantage of the situation. Tang San also informed everyone of the conclusion he had analyzed just now, and at the same time, arranged the tactical strategy according to his ideas. Just when the two parties were about to step out of the store, Lingtian walked up to them. He had just been having a good meal somewhere, but he was kicked off the table without provoking anyone. This matter would not be forgotten so easily. At this time, a student from Kanghu College suddenly jumped out, pointed at Lingtian and shouted angrily, "Boy, who are you and the others? Get out of my way quickly, don't block our teacher's way here." Lingtian glanced at the man coldly. Before he could finish his words, a tyrannical momentum surged out. Boom. There was a muffled sound. The Kanghu Academy student was directly knocked away. This scene made Zikyu's eyes tremble slightly, and his face was full of shock. This kid looked like he was only 12 or 13 years old at most, but he had such a powerful soul power. Using his soul power to knock people flying through the air was something he thought he couldn't do. Zao. No, who is your excellency? Yi. Zikyu's character is as cautious as his martial spirit. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, he must first ask Lingtian's identity. Lingtian. As he spoke, Lingtian locked his gaze on Daemubei. Daemubei's heart trembled, and he quickly suppressed the emotion in his heart. "Lingtian, what are you going to do?" "I," said Daemubei. "Did you do it on purpose?" Lingtian pointed at the shattered dining table in front of Ningrangrang. His ice blue eyes looked at Daemubei coldly, revealing a biting chill at the same time. "What do you mean, Daemubei argued. The situation was chaotic, noisy. Without waiting for Daemubei to explain, the Bingji sword slashed out two sword beams. One force rushed towards the foul-mouthed young man from Kanghu Academy, and the other sword light slashed towards Daemubei's position. Bang. Everyone spread out. Yi. Zikyu took a step forward and pulled the dazed student behind him. At the same time, he used his dark soul power to condense a tortoise shell shield in front of him, and stepped back several steps to block the impact of the sword light. Lingtian, you. Daemubei's heart sank. He did not expect Lingtian to be so decisive. Daemubei, who had fully appreciated the power of this sword before, did not care about his face at this moment and quickly rolled to the right to avoid the sword light. Bang. There was a muffled sound. In the end, Daemubei was still a step too slow to dodge, and was hit hard against the wall by the sword light. Ice. G-sword flash. Lingtian flashed in front of Daemubei, held Daemubei's right leg with one hand, and slammed him onto the tabletops piled with dishes. Bang bang bang. Every time Daemubei lands face first. Wow. Broken table, plates all over the floor. The suit on Daemubei's body was full of oil stains, and the original color could no longer be seen. His long golden hair was also stained with a lot of vegetable soup, and he looked as miserable as a drowned crab. After finishing all this, Lingtian wiped his hands and returned to his previous position. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.